Started off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, yo, set it up.
Surfing on the web and I'm shooting at 3. I've been golden when I got my G. I'm an alien boy from a different planet, yeah. So I got my drink, I'm riding in the 1920s Model T Ford. Call her Era Lord. Call me Levi, playing on the keys, boy. And I'm about to put my gloves on. If I said it, then I meant that. Yeah, I like that one, I'm about to get that. Crash that whip for the drumsticks, whiplash. I'm about to get them all. Are you with that? In a white boat, surrounded by blue. I want one, but I got a cop too. I wanna fly high in the sky, arms out wide, trying to soar from a bird's eye view. I'm on fire, Ricky, Bobby, cracking the pavement, Whitney, Bobby. I'm a Saki bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Bruce Wayne been a dog, and I keep it 101, cause I'm feeling kinda spotty. You sipping on some rock and I'm sipping on octane. The only thing around my neck is the blockchain.
Now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
NFT, Twitter, blockchain. Seeing with the ghosts and we ballin' like LeBron James. Crypto. We can make a trade, get the memo. Refuse not falling for the FOMO. Listening to Coffee with Captain. You know we worldwide, they loco. I ain't never gonna stop rapping. Orlando, yeah, we working magic. We rocking Ethereum NFTs. I just went and caught me a half base. Man, I got a shout out
Started
to
off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Freaking the mood to choose one, but they got knowledge to move, son. I'm shocking in shades with my brother in shoes. Yeah, them blues is coming. Even though it's hard to pick, eeny, miny, mo, soda on the mix, no biting lips, it's time to go. Index number 1, no thumbs up, you gotta scroll. Looking at the ghost in studio, it's time to go. Had a helmet on by myself until I met a mask that wanted to have a face off. Had to bring my chainsaw, full tank of gas in the drive with my brakes off. I'm A1, but a different kind of steak sauce.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin, where we dive into all things crypto, NFTs, Web3, and cutting-edge technology. Remember, nothing here is financial advice. Early-stage tech can be exceptionally volatile and risky. So grab your coffee and join Cap and Steve for today's conversation.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain GM. Thanks so much for joining us. If you haven't done so, do us favorite drops a GM in the chat down below, then head up top, smash that like, repost, and bookmark on today's space. Greatly appreciate it. Warms up the algo and does us a real solid. We're also live over on Abstract and YouTube. You can find those links pinned up top as well. And as always, I'm Cap, joined by a co-host this morning. Thanks so much for joining us. If you haven't done so, again, give us the love on the space. Help us get things warmed up here. And as always, never do financial advice in the show. Crypto is risky, NFTs are risky, meme coins exceptionally risky. It can all go to zero memo stones. Please don't put any money you can afford to lose. And don't join us for financial advice. Just join us for some fun, some information, a little bit of education along the way, especially today. We got a big brain on the show. So definitely buckle up. There'll be some education for sure. But I actually hope you did follow the financial advice and open up your 40x long yesterday during the show. I should have left it open, apparently. I did book a nice little almost 50% short there, closed it. I'm just going to do that every Monday morning. We'll see how long it continues to play out like that. And yes, Von Frunton, we will. We're gonna have a little pirate talk this morning. I had a pirate hat. I would be wearing one. I know it's unexcusable for me to live in, this area of the country and not own a pirate hat. But that's we will fix that. We'll fix that soon, especially if I get nominated to lead the Pirate DAO, which I'm here for. So. But before we jump into all that nonsense, but Outer asked if you guys appreciate, she's like, I have no idea what the Pirate DAO is about. I'm like, it's kind of nonsense, but actually I think it will lead to an interesting conversation regarding DAOs and product market fit and what can they do? What are they for other than governance voting, which I think is a meme. So we will get into that. Before we do, without further ado, join me welcoming Outer to the stage. GM, always a pleasure. How you doing this morning?
GM, I'm awake, which is great. I'm really excited about this new Tuesday morning waking up early habit. I brought out my GM mug Just seems
Hey.
appropriate. I think this is the Penelopes. Do you remember that project?
Oh
By
wow.
like, I think it was
Dude,
Carlini. Was that the guy's name from
it
like
was. I was going to say Carlito, but I think you're correct.
something like
Carlene.
that? And
Is he still around?
I have no idea. I know that he was
Look
like
him up.
pretty innovative with some of the stuff that he was doing. But I remember that merch. Speaking of merch from our last show, and I'm like, man, I gotta grab a mug for some water. And I brought out the GM mug, but this is from that project.
So I know I've said no more merch. We don't want to buy cheap merch or cheap goodies. Unless, like, same thing with like the merch last time, like unless you're making it unique and making it special and tying in, making it nostalgic, like tying into the traits.
Yeah,
Like a GM mug is simple, but it's like,
and there's no mention of the project like at all.
yes,
I just know it from just remembering getting this and like a sticker pack and some other things. So like I think there's more cat stuff on some of the other merch, but that mug is just like you can be a gamer or whatever. If you know GM, it's a
yeah, it's
project.
well done. Even a lot of my I still consume outside of this stuff. My most consumed genre would be, as far as like podcasts and stuff goes, would be sports, fantasy sports stuff, and they say GM over there as well. It's like it's
Yeah.
cross. Do we take credit for that? Was GM a crypto Twitter thing? Did we? That started here, right? It started in the
No,
21 or no?
I think it's gaming. If I was
Mm.
gonna like guess, I feel like it's a gaming thing, but I don't know. Maybe somebody like maybe some GM historian knows and can put it into the comments. I was gonna say, I have a lot of wizard hats, but I don't have a pirate hat, and now I feel like I need to get one just to have one. I have like a M2 captain hat, right? From the
Kind of could count. I mean, I
from
guess
from the
we could.
mutant. It's it's seaworthy.
I'm kind of, now that we have this, like, this is a cold. This is perfect cold open. So it's cold open material, but yet also relevant, actionable advice for these brands. How like should we? Was this a miss that they did not include a pirate hat in the Board API Club collection?
You know, I mean, maybe.
At least the mutant collection, if not
Yeah.
going to put it in the OG collection. Like I feel like this is a
It's a trait. It's not
mhm.
in, definitely other collections have pirate hats. It's definitely like it's not a most, prominent trade because I think a lot of that stuff kind of just proliferated once one project had something, people just copied it into their project. But yeah,
If
I don't
punks had a
know.
pirate hat, there would definitely be more pirate hats in the space for sure.
Oh, 100%. That's mainly the origin. I looked up Pirate DAO, just like a brief Google this morning, and I found a Medium article. Get this date. So the Medium article is called Pirate DAOs, an AI DAO thought experiment, but it was published on September 6th of 2016, which is
What?
yeah.
I didn't like, if you would have asked me when was the first DAO created, I would have guessed
hmm
probably 2017 would be my guess.
Yeah, I shared the article with you. Like, look, I haven't like fully read the article. I just stumbled upon it because I was kind of like, oh, what's the latest news on whatever this is? Because I'm not, like on top of whatever you're talking about. And that came up and it
Right.
kind of blew my mind that like this random article came out by a guy named Paul, and it's literally a thought experiment on things we're seeing today from just like me briefly skimming it. But the fact that it was penned like almost 6 years or 10 years ago is Cap, it's kind of blowing my mind.
My mind's blown because not only is it Pirate DAO from 2016, it also references AI, which yes, I
Oh,
know AI has existed well before the last couple of years of LLMs blowing up, but AI DAOs that autonomously amass resources and continuously improve themselves could be one of the most powerful developments in recent history. This is, I'm
hmm
quoting this article in
oh,
26. It's
yeah,
almost 10 years ago.
I know. I had to bring this to the show as soon as you mentioned that. I'm like, wait a minute,
Wow.
this is like, I mean, this guy's gonna wake up to like a bunch of claps and
Uh,
comments probably on his Medium article, like, why are these people revisiting it? But kudos, like, what an OG thing to do. I don't know. There's something like, he was so early that we had to find him 10 years later.
this
And he
is wild.
talks and he talks about Ethereum in there, right? Like, and Ethereum would have been like a year old at that point. Like, it's just, yeah, it's super
This is
super
wild.
cool.
So, I mean, it even makes me more, kind of makes me sad, actually. Um, that like, just zooming out, high level, and I'm sure there's example of successful DAOs, right? One thing we probably should.
Are there? No, there are.
Which one would you say has been the most successful? I don't know now that I said that.
I don't know either.
I was
I'm
going to
trying
say
to think,
Aave, and that's probably not a great example right now.
no.
That's also something we should probably hit on today. Is
So maybe like art DAOs, like Squiggle DAO, Nouns DAO, but even those, like
Flamingo.
they fizzle. Pizza DAO. I don't know. I did bring this book to the table too. This is a book called Radical Friends, and I've not read this book. It's on my list of things to read. I acquired it a while back. It's just one I haven't sat down to read. But it's called Decentralized Autonomous Organizations in the Arts. So for any nerdy art folks out there, this was published in July of 2022. So it's not as OG as our article. But I mean, look, it has some pictures, but mostly it's text. So if you've seen my book article at some point, like a while back, I definitely judge it by whether or not it's pictures based or not. But this is mostly reading, but it does give a timeline of DAOs, at least in the arts. And this part is pretty cool. It has like it has kind of like the history, and apparently like goes all the way to the 6th century BCE. Taoist leaders in Asia, attuned to the flow of nature, exert large cultural influence on the margins of society. Tao puns, memes, and references to the way.
Man, if Christopher Nolan's Odyssey references DAOs, I might lose my mind. If we're around in the era of Homer.
Apparently, like 1860, a U.S. youth movement called Wide Awakes mobilizes against slavery and is responsible for bringing Abraham Lincoln to power. There's like a whole historical take on like the history of DAOs curated. So if you do, maybe I'll post some, like maybe I'll take some pictures of just the timeline and post it, because it's like, and then we get to 2015 with Ethereum coming on board, and yeah, so like this is kind of wild. This whole like, so I don't highly recommend if you're gonna deep dive DAOs. I have not done it yet, but I've seen the timeline in here. But yeah, I'll this is the book. But I guess I'll say it for the Twitter folks that are listening. Radical Friends, Decentralized Autonomous Organization in the Arts by Ruth Catlow and Penny Rafferty. If you go to my Twitter profile, the pinned post that I have on books, this is a book that's in that post. So if you want like a direct link, you can get it from there. But yeah, that's, this is more like nerdy DAO type stuff, but I think the philosophy behind the idea of a DAO is probably, covered here extensively, because that part doesn't change, that idea of like, an autonomous organization, which I don't know. How do you feel about this notion of like things get done when there's a leader, like a clear leader with a clear vision and a clear mission and a clear like way forward versus this?
Yes. So I'm trying to even think of like a good analog, like what's a good analog of a DAO, and it's not a good analog, but I think of like matrix organizations in corporate America, and I know they can work. Personally, I've been in one. I'm not a fan. It could have been the corporate bureaucracy. It could have been the culture there. It could have been, but what I experienced in a matrix organization in corporate America, we get Fortune 200 company, and they acquired us. So I was like the outdoor cat that worked there for a few years. And I went from, my mornings would start, I have a 5 to 15 minute call with our, the principal, my mentor, the basically the primary owner of the family office. We'd talk for 5 or 15 minutes. He'd give me basically the directive of the day, or we'd have a chat. And then I would I'd get stuff done, and we would check in on his, evening walk. And that was really it, unless it was a meeting that I scheduled or something that I needed someone's assistance on. I went from that to getting in this matrix organization, and no exaggeration, I think probably every single day was loaded with not one, not two, usually 3 or 4 1-hour long Zoom meetings, sometimes as many as 8. Like an entire day would be 1-hour Zoom meeting stacked on the next. And almost all of them could have been an email. But even worse is, it wasn't just like me and an attorney, or me and a CFO, or someone from finance. It was me and anywhere from 12 to 17 other stakeholders all across the organization. And nothing got done. It was because no one had like a real boss. Like no one reported to the other organization. It was just talking in circles. And it's like, I think it was Keith Rabeau or Bowies, I don't know how to say his last name, Silicon Valley guy. He said like, I'll butcher this quote, but something like less is more. Talk about bringing in like designers and engineers together, and you get two, and you can get stuff done. You get a dozen in a room, and you're not gonna get anything done. They're just gonna keep talking about different ideas, and that's how I felt there. Is like we'd have a meeting to plan the agenda for next week's meeting, and everyone would have their say. And then we'd have the meeting, and like 3 people would talk. Other people wouldn't get a chance. They just sit in the call for an hour, wasting their time. And then we'd have a debrief meeting with the 17 stakeholders. It hit me like the one time I was like, oh my God, this is so broken. We're on a call with Apple, and it's like a senior leadership person at Apple, 1 assistant, and 17 people from my organization. It was embarrassing. I literally was embarrassed because it was in my head as an entrepreneur, small business owner most of my life. I'm thinking like this call it was an hour-long call, just cost us, I don't know how many thousands of dollars just in payroll that was entirely unnecessary. And I share that because I think the closest comparison I have to a DAO is an organization that's like that, where there's no real leader. Even there was a CEO. At the end of the day, I guess the buck stopped with them, but they didn't get involved in most of the day-to-day, if any. And I was so excited when I jumped into this space and the concept of DAOs came up. NFT mints, DAOs. Like I really saw this vision in my head, like, wow, this is the next path. This is like a better way for small business startups, better way for crowdfunding. It's much better than Kickstarter, from raising, seed rounds, friends and family rounds, to then actually scaling an organization without having to have hundreds of people on payroll. Like you a lot of small businesses, a lot of startups, you hit this inflection point where the CEO, the founder, is wearing 17 hats because you're showing some traction, you're having some success, but yet you can't, you want to make sure that it's sustainable before you start going and hiring a bunch of people. So you just start doing all the jobs. And in my head, I was naive thinking, well, DAOs fix this. DAOs not only outsource fundraising and crowdsource fundraising, it crowdsources labor and help and invested stakeholders. Like theoretically, it was so exciting to me. And when I say it's kind of sad to think that this wasn't even like a 2021 thing, people have been talking about this conceptually for a decade, essentially. And I don't know if we're any farther along today with DAOs than they were when that guy wrote that article in 2016. Why is that? Why? And is there an alternate model where you still have the same DAO structure, but there is a leader, there is a figurehead? I become Chris, the pirate captain, and I'm leading the thing. I'm calling the day-to-day shots, but we've got this independent team of essentially freelancers who are all vested. Like, why hasn't this stuck? Why is it? I know it's easier said than done, but I went from super bullish on DAOs and from the concept to very bearish, and I still struggle to determine why. And I the only thing I come back to is, you need a leader. You need the buck to stop at someone. Is it that simple?
It might be. I mean, I think like I'm interested in the idea of an AI DAO, right? Like, because that's, and I like I'm gonna read the guy's article because I'm curious now about what he wrote about the idea of including AI in there. But like, that seems very interesting to me, where it doesn't necessarily require a leader, but at the end of the day, does the AI is the AI a leader at that point, right? Because that's But I want to talk about the Founders DAO. Do you remember the Founders DAO, which was Pixel Vault's DAO?
I reference that. It's one of my favorite game theory decisions I ever had to make in this space, partially due because the value of the was a meta hero we had to burn for a Founders DAO pass, right? Or what was the?
Oh
yeah,
I don't remember. I don't remember what was burned. I know that.
Oh, it was Punk Comics 1. You had to make the choices.
It was.
You want to burn your Punks Comic 1, your original Punks Comic first edition for Founders DAO pass, or keep your Punks Comic 1. And at the time, they were like, I don't know, like 3 to 5 ETH, I think. It was like a big decision. Mm-hmm. And I had 2, so I burnt 1, kept 1, and that's a core memory of my NFT journey. Like the gamification there, mm-hmm. the forcing the tough decision, and then the Founders DAO. I mean, fast forward, became a way for G-Funk to apparently grift, I don't know, $800,000 or whatever it did at the end to wind it down.
But maybe like rewinding before that happened, I think like, well, no, I know, like let's fast forward to the whole
Sorry.
thing. Yeah, I mean, the TLDR, DAO's
A
not
little bit of
working.
sour taste in my mouth on that.
Yeah. Well, and Divide too, right? Like, I mean, he was like super Pixel Vault Maxius, my partner, who like was just so excited. And I think like the burning tech was really interesting and that decision making was cool. But for the founder DAO specifically, like I remember he had so much alpha because he was in that like private channel and all, like everyone was pretty excited about having access to that. But one thing I wanted to touch on that I found interesting, because I was part of the Hashmask DAO, because like that was a thing at the very beginning before it turned into more like just team-based roles, was the fact that there was like this disparity between how many tokens you owned and voting. And I thought maybe we could touch on that notion of like, I remember with the Hashmask DAO, we tried to figure out like what is like a one person, one vote look like. And is that better in that system versus something like Founders DAO, where, correct me if I'm wrong, but anytime there was a proposal that came up, somebody with the most tokens had the most power to sway it. And that, I think that's the same for like a lot of those setups where like you know, you needed somebody to come in that controlled the most based on the fact that they were a whale, and they would sway the voting. And then is that decentralized? Yeah, because I guess it is in that sense that like, you know, there's no like top down necessarily. It's a voting system, but there's something to be said about like each individual member of said DAO having equal like power in decision making versus how much of this is now a DAO when you have somebody who has like, you know, if you have 60% of the ability to vote things yes or no, then you are the person controlling the entire thing, right? So yeah, I don't know. There's something to be said about like not only just does it need to have a clear leader in general for it to work as a concept, but also like if it's going to be a voting system, then what does that voting system setup look like? What does quorum look like? And like I had a lot of experience in the nonprofit sector with like, you know, been on working boards where you actually like, you know, do some of the work, been on boards where it's more of a governing board for a nonprofit. And time and time again, like I think something struck me when you were talking about this idea of like showing up to a call with like 17 people that don't need to be there. It really became a meeting about the meetings. Like that's what I used to call these things. Like a meeting about the meetings was the way to not get anything done, but feel like you've put effort in because you are exhausted after. And like when you close your laptop and you leave, you don't feel like doing the work anymore because you're like
you do that once a week. I volunteered 52
so
hours
tired.
last year.
Yeah. Like
52 hours on this nonprofit, volunteered my time, and you didn't accomplish jack because
Nothing.
all you did was talk about meetings. And
Totally.
This is not a hyperbole, by the way. I'm not going to name the name. I've probably said it before. And I know they're not the only organization. So it's just like, it is my lived experience. It was awful. It was so inefficient. And it like they lost me. And I think I'm like a high performing, high functioning leader. I chose to leave there because I couldn't stand the culture and the environment. And there was like changes and restructuring. We knew going into it, like we went from small family office to, you know, owned by a Fortune, 200 publicly traded company. Inevitably, they're going to change things. Ultimately, my roles, when I left, they became 3 different distinct jobs. And so now instead of 17 people, there'd be 19 people on those same calls. Like it was, they say like, I'll end that rant, but yeah, it really.
So I guess maybe the question is like, how do groups get work done? You know, like almost it's like it's a tale as old as time. You're like, let's take everybody back to high school. You get paired with some group. You may know the people, you may not. You may like them, you may not. And like, does it ever work? Like is anybody ever in like some? Because this is random, right? Like you didn't choose your collaborators. When you choose your collaborators, I think it's different. But when you show up and there's like 5 people that you're paired with, whether it's on your job or whatever, like the vibe check has to be really good, or like how do you actually get the work done? Because it becomes about like the bureaucracy of it or the drama of it or the politics of it or whatever. And like I myself like I cannot like my deal breaker or red flag is any kind of like drama stuff. Like I just like hard no. So the collaborative environment has to be about the thing that we're creating. not so much about like how we're creating it, if that makes sense. And I don't mean the tools, I just mean like the structure. But that's not to say that it should be like, super unorganized. But yeah, I don't know. There's something to be said about like actually getting like productive. But the DAO system in itself is like, it's not so much about the day to day. It's just more about this idea of like the organization part. I think is almost an oxymoron in the DAO. Like, because like how like in theory it should work, but in practice, organization of random individuals that self-organize.
I mean, you talk about group projects, group tests, group whatever. The most successful groups I was ever in, thinking back to like college, it was usually where one or two people did 80 to 90% of the work. They just took the bull by the horns, they got stuff done, and everyone else showed up on presentation day. Sometimes that was me, and those other times, keeping it real, I didn't contribute my part because someone else took the lead, and I would have just been slowing them down, stepping on them.
Yeah, you'd be in the way. That was like, I remember that as well. Like, and I think here's the key though, in even something like that example, sometimes you need to get out of the way. Like you being there is now the 17-person thing where it's just when you get in the way. I don't mean like specifically you, but just like, you know what I mean? Like where if you're in a group and one person's clearly like, I got this, you gotta let them cook. Like, no, not, you know what I mean? Like as long, if they feel like they just want to do the thing, sometimes it's like, okay, well, is it my own guilt of not helping, or am I actually like going to stifle this more if I try to somehow be involved when someone clearly has that, like, I'm gonna take the reins and I got this, I'll check in with you guys,
Yep.
Like, and I think that's powerful too, when that's something that maybe it's something they're passionate about. I don't know. But like to your point of where you're like, sometimes I didn't do anything. Yeah, but not, I don't know if you've seen this article. I feel like I need to bring this up, even though like maybe this is a bit of a digression, but there's this research study that came out a while back, and hi Divide, you're awake. Did you feed the dog? No.
You're GGMing.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say is there was a study done. I can't remember where. I'm gonna have to like fish this one out, but it was about people and Lego, and they were given Lego and asked to improve something. And every single time, so the actual improvement was to take away from the thing, like was to remove some pieces. That led to the improvement of the thing. Every single person, like most of them, added to it, which actually made it worse. But there was a psychological need to add and a huge barrier to actually like remove previous work or to delete it or to get rid of it or to like, and there's something, I don't know, somehow this relates to me a little bit, and us like mentioning this idea of like productivity in a group or like, these organizations, like where can you come in and just be like, you know what, I propose we get rid of the last two things we voted on. Can you imagine? Like, and I think that article like really revealed, I think, something about like this human nature of additive behavior when you're innovating, when you're working together, when like there's just no permission to come in and like fully disrupt the thing. I'm gonna have to find this now because I'm sure people are like, show us the receipts, where's this article?
Can be very demotivating too to the doers, right? I'm naturally a contributor. Like I want to participate, I want to be involved, I want to help. I mentioned, when I'm on a call with 17 other people and I'm embarrassed because there's 17 of us compared to 2 on the other side, like I didn't add anything, because at that point it's like I'm just extending the call, I'm just wasting more time. And it was, I do think there's, not only does it lead to inefficiencies, it can also be a demotivator for people who are wired to just get stuff done. While you look that up, I saw Oxy flew up here with a hand. We also have Revolve token. Let's go ahead and get Oxy in here. Oxy, GM, what's your thoughts? Why are DAOs broken and how do we fix them, Oxy?
Yeah, GM. I think you guys are spot on with there needing to be a leader to make snap decisions or make those decisions for people. Like the best leaders that I've worked with over the years have been the ones who can make decisions. Like they obtain the information, they listen to everyone, they hear all the different aspects of it, and they make a decision and stick to it. I think that's like a huge, and then having the ability to learn more information and then make a change when necessary. And like, I mean, I truly, that was what makes a good leader in my eyes. And that's just not present in the DAO structure. As it relates to crypto though, like, I mean, and maybe this is like a challenge to you guys, because I just am not super familiar with the DAOs. It's like, have we had a DAO that actually has a good product and a good project with product market fit, and is actually like at its core a good company that could be successful, even if it had a leader that could make a good decision and do these types of things? Has there been one that had, outside of Aave, I guess,
That was
that has had a?
yeah, I mean that's where I was going to go. Aave is a very real product, very real player
Yeah.
in the space, and they've made it thus far, but there's now like this essentially the attempt for like a hostile takeover. So it's like, while yes, there's at least and I think the other quote unquote successful DAOs probably fall in the realm of like investing or collecting, right? Whether it's Squiggle DAO or Spirit DAO or Flamingo DAO, something where it was very, they weren't building an organization. It was crowd pulling. It was pulling funds to go make, to go collect things, to go buy art, to go invest in things. I think those, but that's also like you're usually not having to make snap decisions. We'll go right back to here because what you said, it really did resonate. One of my earliest mentors said, and I don't know where he got the quote from, but it was, successful people make decisions quickly and change their minds slowly. They're open to changing their mind when presented with new information, but they make decisions quickly and they change their mind slowly. Whereas unsuccessful people often take forever. They go back and forth, they deliberate, they talk to all their friends and family and take forever to make a decision. And then as soon as they get presented with critique or FUD or a conflicting view, they're very quick to change their minds, to very quick to change that decision. And yeah, that's very difficult to do if you have hundreds or thousands of people attempting to get rowing in the same direction. I did pull up, I'm not going to read this, this is from the block, there's an article on Aave Labs. The TLDR is basically Aave Labs made a proposal to control, basically the Aave Labs, which is an entity, the for-profit entity, is in dispute with the actual DAO in terms of stewardship, revenue alignment, and I don't know how this thing shakes out. I'm not deeply involved, but yeah, to your answer your question on what's a successful DAO that's shipped a good product, this would be one. And I guess you could probably also say like Uniswap, right? Like Uniswap and Uniswap Labs, there is a DAO component to Uniswap. Am I correct in that?
It's a good question. I don't know if it's a DAO or if it's like a foundation, like Hyperliquid Foundation. I'd have to look into that. I'm not entirely sure.
Go ahead, take it whichever direction you'd like.
No, I hear you. And I think like, I guess speaking to like pooling funds to invest in product or real estate or, any kind of investment, it just doesn't feel like a DAO is the right vehicle for that. Like we've looked at, I mean, there's RWA vaults, there's, trade like vaults on Hyperliquid where you can throw your money in, and then, there's someone who is actually a good trader making these decisions on what to invest in, what moves to make. A DAO in that kind of vehicle just doesn't feel like the right move, because you have people who have no idea what they're doing when it comes to investing and they're making decisions on this. It just doesn't make sense to me. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know what fixes DAOs, to be honest with you. Like, you guys, I kind of came in on the second half of the conversation, but you guys talking about like one voter or one person who has a huge portion of the share is likely going to be making that decision. And if that's not the right person for whatever product or whatever company you're trying to build, then it's going to fail. There's just no way around it. So like a project makes a DAO, they hold the majority of the thing. They're going to be making all the decisions because of their voting rights being outweighing everyone else's, or for the most part. If they're not the right people to be at the helm, then it's going to fail. That's just how bad companies or poorly ran companies work. So I don't really know how to fix it, to be honest, but I don't know. I'd like to see it work, but
yeah, imagine when the whale. It's one thing when you have someone in the group that's voting or contributing and commenting, and they're not only unqualified, but they're just objectively wrong. Now imagine that same person, and it's a whale or whales that control the vote. Like the DAO is DOA. Like it's dead on arrival. That it's not going to survive if you have someone, and I'm sure that's happened. I'm sure there's been DAOs where the controlling stake or someone that had 30, 40% controlling interest in votes just was the wrong person to be calling the shots. Now, sometimes, usually, those people are influenced by the real organizers, the real leaders of the DAO, because they know the whale controls the vote, and so they reach out to them and they spend more time talking to them and they get them on board. But it just doesn't always play out that way. Revolve, you've been patient. GM, go ahead and get in here. What's I saw you had an interesting take. Or the DAOs have been conceptually around for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. Yes, maybe. I'm go ahead and expand on that and take it whichever direction you'd like.
Good morning, everyone.
GM.
GM Captain, thanks for having me on. For you guys who don't know, I'm Zach, CEO, co-founder here at Revolve. Yeah, one of the things that, and again, I'm speaking on behalf of real estate and a couple other things, and I've got some ideas on the business side of it. But when we talk about thousands of years, we kind of dialed it down to what we call a collective property ownership model, or collective ownership. And if you look at back in history, tribes and various other things have collectively owned property and stuff and made the decisions on what do we do with this land, right? But you still have a leader in a way. The seventh largest company in Brazil is actually a collective ownership model. So very much that the people, in so many ways, like a credit union or other things, where people kind of own it, but also get to make the decisions. We kind of have this funky place with a DAO, and Oxy nailed it as well. Is, you talk about the decision-making factor. One of the things we're incorporating with us is that each property is held under a DAO, right? So there's 1,000 pieces, and you get to vote. Do we sell it? Do we re-rent it? Do we raise rents? But the big thing becomes, and I talked to, who was a Descent DAO platform, and they talked about fatigue, right? How many decisions does somebody have to make over the year, and what decisions are they making? The big conversation kind of falls into the SEC, and you start getting into, is it security or not? But more importantly, collective ownership and decision making, to me, are kind of two different things. And if we overload, like for instance, if you had a restaurant, right, and the decision is, do we increase the menu? Do we not? Versus, hey, I need to order shrimp now. Do we vote on, do we order 10 pounds or 50 pounds? I would rather leave a lot of like the game time decisions to somebody who knows what they're doing, but maybe have some larger decisions on, is it a capybara cafe, or is it going to be a cat cafe? I mean, those are kind of, in my opinion, the things that we vote on more so than the operational, the day-to-day operations of the organization itself, because then people fall into, like we talked about, the fatigue and a few other things. But DAOs, in my opinion, are kind of the future of group and collective knowledge, because you can limit who's in the group. If you have one property and you own a piece of it, then you can be in the conversation. But if you don't, you're out. And part of it is exactly like we said, what decisions are they making? It's been around for a really long time, but I think that a lot of organizations right now, and again, my IMO is, like you guys have just been nailing it left and right, there needs to be some leader, some spearheader, somebody who's willing to take it on, but let the DAO still be involved in some of the decisions, but obviously let the driver pick which direction we're going. We're just going to pick the wheels and tires to make it look cool, right? So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it.
It's a good take. I agree. I think they need a leader. That's my one takeaway of all this is I think DAOs will be a lot more effective with a figurehead, a spokesperson, a real leader that then relies on the group for simple decisions, but not day to day. and then, oh, that's not decentralized. Maybe this is where we got it wrong. Maybe decentralized autonomous organization is just not it. I actually thought, again, I was very bullish AI agents coming into this year, still am, but not, they obviously did not have the impact. They weren't like NFTs of 21. They didn't have the mania impact. And I also thought AI agents could fix DAOs primarily in some of like the back and forth, the administration. A lot of like, I had some experience with the ApeCoin DAO before it sunset, and the admin review, the administration was quite frankly really bad. It was extremely slow, archaic, I might say. And this was like, I believe, a team of like 5 people that were supposed to get something done. And it was stuff that could have got back to the applicants in hours or days at most, would take weeks, because you had, again, 5 people scattered across the globe, and getting on those meetings to talk about the next meeting, they just, I don't know. I wasn't there. I can only guess or make, speculate what was so challenging. But I did think that AI agents could help move some DAOs along, but maybe that's part of the challenge, is DAOs attempted to decentralize too much of the decision-making process and the building process, and attempted to automate too much of the process, when the reality is, if you have 1,000 stakeholders, you're rarely going to get anything done. Everyone's going to have a difference of opinions, or what you get done is not what 1,000 people want to see. It's what the 1, 2, or 3 largest holders want to get done.
I want to jump in here for a sec before Von Frunten takes us out, because he's like, discuss Pirate DAO, you coward. It's really funny. So I put this into ChatGPT real quick, because I wanted to just synthesize kind of the differences for me. And I think it actually, for once, did a decent job of this. And this is like an interesting take. I'm kind of here for this take. So one of the things that it says is that a true DAO, of course, would be decentralized, autonomous, and organized. And so the decentralization part is that it's actually genuinely hard to like capture the power in a decentralized organization. Being autonomous is that the rules are executed without permission, and organized decisions reliably turn into action. But here's what I like and how this got framed. It breaks and says that when you have a D plus O, but you have a weak autonomy, then that's like a DAO with a multi-sig. Or you have an A plus O, but a weak D, so that it's an on-chain company. Or you have a D plus A with a weak O, where it's like a chaotic voting machine. And so like the sentiment from ChatGPT today is that like, it's a hard thing to nail all 3 of those things in one. And that's, I think, like the thing that people miss in trying to accomplish a successful DAO, is like, it's almost as if once you have 1 or 2 nailed, one falls apart, which I think is interesting. It also provides, it's like hilarious. I'm not sure if this is hallucinating or not, but this is an interesting take. It says that coiners care the most about A, governance nerds care the most about O, and crypto idealists care the most about D. And most conflicts come from pretending you can maximize all 3 at once. And I don't know, man. Like that is an interesting, like, succinct way to like, just detail the like the root of the DAO problem, when you think about like the D, the A, and the O, and how you like actually combine all 3. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, because I think like the decentralization part is really just about the way that I think the voting is ultimately conducted. Like I still think like the organization part of it is still about leadership for it to be successful. Like I don't know. I just haven't seen it yet where it just isn't. Like I don't like, why can't we come up with like from the trenches, this is the most successful DAO? Like like we've been around in the space long enough, and I can't point a finger to like the thing that like survived the test of time and is still successful and like paved the way for like the DAO.
What if, I don't know the answer. I'm not gonna claim to know the answer. If I did, we'd probably be running a successful DAO. What if we think about it in first principles? What if we don't think about DAOs as what we know them to be? Because even in the chat, I'm not gonna out him, but it's funny because there was someone who wanted to talk about pirate DAOs, and I somehow turned it into an ApeCoin DAO conversation. It's not where we're going. And he said it's giving the DAO too much credit. It wasn't administrative issues. It was manipulation issue. There was both. I think it was both. I think that the administration was poor. Probably all, I'm not saying all, but I believe some of them probably were extracting, grifting, just cashing checks and not there for the greater good. I also do believe there was manipulation on some boats. There was a lot of extracting, a lot of grifting, and that's not unique to the ApeCoin DAO as we've seen. Oftentimes it will be self-serving. You'll see whales come in, accumulate enough tokens to get votes passed, they'll get what they want, and then they dump their tokens and they move on to do the next thing. To one point, Hizzy asked, what about Nouns DAO? Nouns DAO is still a thing, but they had a kind of an inflection point where the DAO voted to essentially wipe out the treasury, or that's not the exact verbiage, but basically everyone who had a Noun DAO could cash it in for a pro rata share of the treasury, and most did. And so it still exists, albeit with a fraction of the resources and treasure chest that it had at one point. We will get into the pirate DAO conversation briefly, because it's really like, this is, while I wasn't being like, I am kind of serious. I know it's kind of more of a funny thing, but I do think brings up a good discussion of DAOs have been a part of crypto since at least 2016. We found out this morning. A lot of groundswell around them, a lot of excitement around them, and led to a lot of disappointment, a lot of failures. Is it just dead? Do we just move on? Can we rethink what a DAO is and could and should be? Is there a way to, even, like I said, forget the name? And is there a better way to do this from first principles? I'd like to get Husker in here, then we'll go back to Zach. Husker, GM, always a pleasure.
Hey, GM Captain, thank you. Thank you very much for having me up here. I have two things. First thing, you guys were talking about pirate hats. Just a reminder, the Pudgy Penguins do have a pirate hat part of our collection.
Quick interjection. Outer, you mentioned in passing earlier. Can we get an update on your coffee table book? A lot of people here, I'm guessing, aren't even aware of this.
Yeah. I mentioned it last time when we were talking about like writing things. Like, it's the hardest thing to write for myself versus like it's just in general hard to write stuff. So yeah, that's like, I need to just get myself in gear and finish the thing. But yes, at some point I will. I guess the background is that yes, I have been working on a traits book, and it's been like forever. And some of it's done, some of it's not done. So whenever I get around to it,
you probably have the most comprehensive database for NFT traits of anyone on the planet.
For proof of work, Ethereum, yeah, because I had like a very clear like set of data that I chose. So that would be like pretty much every project on Ethereum that's a PFP project from the beginning of Ethereum when they started all the way up until proof of work. I did not do proof of stake, but Penguins are on proof of work, and yes, they have indeed a pirate hat trait.
I was going to say, great call out, Husker. And had I asked Outer which collections had a pirate trait, she could probably pull up her database, do a Control F, and tell us everyone that has a pirate hat in it. But go ahead. Sorry for the interjection. I just had to get that in there.
Hey, no worries. It was a good interjection, honestly. The other thing I was just going to say is I think one of the reasons this cycle has sucked so much is previous cycles, we had something that made us think in crypto that there was something we were doing that was going to be a greater benefit to humanity, or at least like that aspiration. But in reality, I'm now starting to see that essentially crypto is just basically not front running, but basically we were just doing what everyone else has done beforehand, just like a lot faster, but we're ending up in that same result. Like the DAOs have been done by other people before, but generally failed. I kind of think what Revolve was kind of talking about as I was listening to it is just like, well, this kind of sounds like just, we go to stocks where the stockholders, vote for board of directors, the board of directors vote for a CEO, and a CEO is the one that makes the decisions. Those are kind of those like high level decisions that like happen in real life. And are we just going towards that same place? And maybe that's why the cycle sucks, is like we're realizing that, and we're just like, well, we're not really building anything, from first principles better than what already exists in the real world, other than the fact that maybe it's on chain a little bit more transparent, but maybe it's to the gambling casino as we go. Sorry if that's a downer, but
I mean, shareholders in public companies is probably the best analog of it done right, where you have a CEO, you have a board that makes all the decisions, and then they bring their shareholders in to vote on things. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the answer. And so I guess then the question becomes, why does it need to be on chain? What do we do differently here that's not just going public? And I mean, I have answers in my own head, but I'll kick it back to you if you have any response on that, and we'll get Zach back in here.
I will just go ahead and like leave it for the big brains like Oxy and the other people on here to do that. Just I'm not an on-chain expert, so.
Fair. Zach with Revolve, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it going, this technology that we're utilizing is phenomenal, right? Just a real quick, 2 years ago, I didn't know Web3. I knew the technology was available. Next thing you know, I'm at ETH Denver and I just indulged myself and learned it. And the DAOs, I think the technology and the way and the concept of the general layman, the everyday person to have a voice and an opinion on this product that is online or something. It's not just a board that's making those decisions on behalf of my stocks, but I actually get to make a decision. That's huge. It's just, where do we use them? Like, HOAs, they're inherently terrible with voting and trying to get everybody to show up, where if you had it in a digital form on their hand, could people make those decisions based on, if they have an NFT in their wallets, now they get a vote, they just make the vote from their phone as opposed to showing up to a town hall meeting. So there's a perfect use case for DAOs. Like you mentioned, boards and CEOs and things like that. What if they don't even have to show up? They can just, again, make a decision from their phone. So now they could be on 15 companies because you're only making 30 decisions a year, right? This or that or that or this. But you can do it all remotely. So the technology is phenomenal, and definitely don't want to dock it. I just want to make sure that, when we talk about the real world use cases, is it split time, game time decisions, right? Like, are we voting on the next play that the Chargers are about to run? Hopefully not. But do we vote on, hey, are we going to build the new stadium and make it this color, that color, whatever it is, and get the inputs? So there's a lot of use cases. But the big thing I noticed too was voter fatigue. We really got to watch out for, too many decisions, DAO fatigue. And then the other thing you mentioned is whales. One of the things we put was a cap. You can only own 9.9% of any property, which means you only get to make 9.9% of the decision-making power on any given thing. So do you cap people on their decision-making abilities? Kind of another thing we thought about. But yeah, the future's there. NFTs and our idea is going to be the future. But yeah, DAOs they're great. They just need to be, in my opinion, a little tuned in, a little dialed in, and again, don't make it the split time decisions, but these like bigger, heavier, and allow people to be a part of something, So back to you guys.
Yeah, no, good take. I do think voting has been broken for a lot of these. I don't know the best solution. I don't know, quadratic voting.
I do.
Go for it.
I totally, yeah. I'm like, okay, hold on. I wasn't paying attention to who was speaking. I think it was Revolve. Yeah, it was Revolve. So I have a couple of things that I thought about when you were speaking. I think like there is technology that's not like on-chain decentralized technology that allows for, like remote voting. I think there's something like important to this notion of it being like, an actual like on-chain system. But I think the problem I have with the DAO as I've been thinking about it is that it's missing a letter. And maybe this would solve all the problems. I don't think it's a DAO. I think it has to be like a DAIO, and the I is incentivized. So I wrote it down in my little notes here, decentralized, autonomous, incentivized organization. Because then you very clearly understand what the incentive of the DAO is. And maybe there's actual like some kind of rewards built into why you vote at all. And then you don't get burnout because you're incentivized to do it. I don't know. I've just been exploring like maybe DAOs, like maybe we need to reinvent the DAO, and maybe we need to take away a letter, maybe add a letter. I don't know. But there's got to be like what's the North Star of the DAO? And I think maybe like that is ingrained in the culture of what the DAO is. And everybody has a very clear understanding every time they vote why they're doing it and what they get if they do it. Maybe it's rewards, maybe it's something like, I don't know. But there's got to be like, and not just in the minute, but like as the whole entity is created, that's deeply like embedded, just as like the way that it's organized, the way that the voting is done on chain, whether it's one person, one vote, or whether it's, like Revolve said, maybe it's like, 10% or whatever that number was of, max ownership for decision making. But there's got to be like some kind of very clearly defined incentive for everybody involved. Otherwise, like, why? Like otherwise divides like, yo, Founders DAO's having a vote. You should have a look. Here's the link. And I'm like, I don't even know who proposed what. I don't know if I care.
Same. Why do I care? Like, there does need to be some sort of incentives, and beyond, like, hey, if this thing works in the next decade, the underlying token could go up, and your time here is going to. It's so hard to keep attention in this space. Governance voting is arguably one of the most boring things to do. And to your point, if there's 500,000 holders of ApeCoin, there might have been, I don't know, someone could correct me. There might have been 100 people to 500 people that would vote on an average proposal. It's probably maybe understating a little bit, but it was less than 1% of the token holders would actually were participating and active in the DAO. And I would say probably more than half of them weren't active, weren't participating, didn't even read the proposal. They would just go in and vote when voting time came. It's just, and I don't know the answer. It goes back to like shareholders though. I'm curious, like, what's the average percentage of shareholders that actually vote when they have the opportunity to do so? I'm guessing low. Outside of like the large shareholders, I'm guessing, if someone's holding 100 shares of Tesla, I've never voted on any Tesla proposals. Never. I've held their stock for years. I've just never done it. I don't care.
Divide has to come up here and talk about it, because he also gets these like summons to vote and all the Tesla things, and I actually don't know if he does or not, but I see that they come in, and I'm like now curious. See if I text him and summon him. Like, I want to know the answer to this. Like, that he has the answer. Like, he's so like, he reads all the things, and I don't know if he's ever voted or not, but I feel like if he did, it'd be a good like, why'd you do it? Like, why does it matter?
He's like, damn it, Cap, you got me up at way past my morning rise time. Now you're gonna make me talk. No obligations. Yeah, we'd love to hear you hear your thoughts on this if you are able and willing to join us. I thought I saw hands, but I lost them. I don't know if it's X or hands went down. By the way, quick reset if you haven't yet done so. Give us some love on the space. Heading into the 9 o'clock hour here. We talking DAOs. I know this may seem like a wild conversation for the December 2025, but very much is in the news. Not just Aave. What kind of brought this conversation on was this bill that's been proposed by Mike Lee, U.S. Senator for Utah. The TLDR is his bill would authorize American privateers to seize cartel assets with the president's approval. Patriots of the Caribbean, it's called. This is linked up top if you want to read into it further. But essentially, I found this in my in real life friend group. They're in crowds. It's like our pickers group. So we talk stocks, equities, Tesla, and other TradFi stocks. I'm the crypto guy in there. And so I took that from the in real life friend group chat to the war room. And we already got about a dozen people that are in on the Pirate DAO to raise a pirate armada and go get our gold and oil from the Caribbean. And I'm half serious about this. I don't necessarily want to be the pirate myself, at least not at this point in my life. But I would like to say I'm leading a pirate ship and a bunch of pirates, and we're actually out there real life treasure hunting. It would be fun. So it feels very crypto-esque. And I mean, forget buying the Constitution. Let's go find the even better collectible artifacts. I see the Ant Academy. I'm not sure first time speaker or not, but welcome to the stage, GM. What brought you up? I thought for a second I thought we might have had a pirate hat, but quite the opposite, the graduation hat. GM.
yeah, it's not a pirate hat. I think I'm a first time speaker with you on your space, so thanks for letting me up. And yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks. Appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just saw the DAO and I'm interested in that kind of stuff. Just heard about the kind of offering incentives, just triggered my little mind as an opinion. I've always thought about DAOs. You see some really work well, see some really not work well. And I think incentivizing them would be, most occasions, be a poor choice unless you incentivize the right thing. But yeah, I just thought I'd come up, say hello, and I'm happy to go into very quickly why I think incentivizing would be poor choice.
Yeah,
but I don't want to hog the space. Really,
no, I appreciate the pushback, and I understand where you're coming from. The wrong incentives are probably worse than no incentives. And maybe the answer is we're overthinking this, and you can use this somewhat of a familiar structure to raise funds and give them somehow a vested interest that's not a security, but yet the decision making comes down to a leader or a few leaders. But you feel free to take it whichever direction you like. I am genuinely curious to your thoughts. I'm going to mute my camera, but I'll be able to hear you as I step away for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I won't go into massive depth at all, probably because I just can't. I'm not that bright. But I always thought if you were going to incentivize it or offer rewards for voting, then the structure has got to be better. I've seen it work really well where the community is divided into like sub communities, and the leaders or the kind of chairs of those sub communities, they're voted in, I guess, based on reputation. I don't know in depth. I'm not really been too in depth involved with them, but I'm guessing their reputation got them into those positions of chair. And then the voters are incentivized and they're rewarded, not for voting, but for the outcome. So if it was a really positive outcome and it worked, whatever they were voting for, then they were rewarded for a positive outcome rather than just for voting. I thought if you just start offering whatever for voters to vote, you're just going to get people mindlessly voting, and it actually goes against the whole thing, and then you're going to get pure bias, and the whole thing will crumble very quickly. So I've seen it really, work really well when you divide and think about subcommittees into different parts of whatever that project is or brand company or whatever. That works really strongly, and then you incentivize the voters through. You get rewarded from the outcomes based on what you voted for, and if they've worked or they're positive. I thought that was quite a nice thing I've seen in terms of DAOs.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I mean, when I said to add the I to the DAO, I didn't mean like, some kind of fickle way of incentivizing each vote. I think it's just that in the DAOs that I have been a part of in the last however many years, there is a clear missing North Star, like so that like the greater incentive of why the DAO exists, if that makes sense. So I just want to clarify like where, like what, why would I want to show up? Like what is the point? Like I don't know, like Cap, do you know? Like, what was ultimately the point of the Founders DAO? Like proposals came in, people put out random things, but there was really no I'm sure there was something written somewhere on some website, but it was nothing that was palatable that I like took in and like held on to as like the main like point, the main tagline, the main mission vision. Like that was missing, and I think like that's different than giving some like one-shot rewards or some kind of pool or some random thing because that to me is just like what's already kind of been done and is missing. I think the thing that is important is like kind of like when you throw like a blockchain solution at a problem even though it doesn't need that solution, when you throw a DAO onto something that doesn't need a DAO, and then that begs the question of what does a DAO solve?
Yeah, and without a clear stated vision, a mission, a true north, it probably doesn't solve much, probably overcomplicates whatever because without a defined purpose, well then now you're going to have a DAO that's got 1,000 people, give or take, that all think they know what it should be and what it should be doing, and that itself lies the problem. Like now that you say that, I don't know. Like the Founders DAO was, you got access into an alpha group chat. They bought some CryptoPunk, so you had indirect exposure. In theory, we thought, and then come to find out, G-Funk had the keys and he just sold them all and took it for personal gain. My audio is all over the place. Appreciate the heads up. I shouldn't be, but I apologize. I wonder if that's just.
I have you just fine, Cap.
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, we'll ride through it, but I wonder if it is over on the YouTube streets where the audio that came from Kevin. If anyone else on YouTube's having audio issues, let me know. But yeah, thanks for the heads up. I do appreciate the pains entering the studio. So I'm guessing I am having some YouTube audio challenges. I will. I didn't change anything on the Rodecaster, but I have been playing around, attempting to improve the audio setup. There is a chance I've broken something. Oxy, go ahead and save me, and Oh, says good. Absolute Zero says he's good over there on YouTube. So Oxy, GM.
Yeah. So I guess what this we're all talking about, like how to fix DAOs, and then incentivizing voting, or like being active. At the end of the day, I think the reason why people aren't active in DAOs, or why DAOs really aren't working, is because holding the token doesn't mean you own the company. And it gets back to the saying, the same thing I've been talking about for the last long time, is tokens do not equal equity. When you get asked to vote on Tesla because you own 100 shares of Tesla, your actions actually attribute to what the company is going to do, right? And it actually impacts the price of the equity and the value of the equity. You go in, you hold some ape token or whatever token, you make a vote. Now, Yuga can make a decision based on that vote, and it might improve the value of the company, but that doesn't it doesn't always that directly correlate back to your token value. And the only way that it does actually relate to the token value is if it's like a token vote, like token buybacks or token burn vote or something like that. Anything outside of that, it's a company vote for a company you don't own or don't have any stake in. So why would I care what Yuga does if it's not going to come back and directly improve the value of my ape token? It doesn't really mean anything to me because I don't own equity in Yuga. So I think it all circles back to this same issue at hand, where token doesn't equal equity. So the value accrual is not the same between the two vehicles. And that's why people just don't seem to care about DAOs, because it's all token related. There's no DAO right now, at least I can't think of one, that actually holds equity in the company that you're making decisions for. And that's why stock voting versus DAO voting in the crypto sense isn't one for one, in my opinion.
Yeah, very fair. Is that just it? I say so. I guess my pushback would be, though, shareholders own equity in the equities that they invest in. Most don't vote there. Like, there is a similar group voting process, and they do hold equity. And I don't know as if it's necessarily solves the. I still think there's a way. I guess what I'm saying. I still think there's a way DAOs could be, or a reinvention of DAOs could be successful without equity being tied to the token. Would be greater, sure, if you could, at least under current regulation. I don't know there's a way to do that without it becoming an actual security. I don't know. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. Am I cutting out? You cut out there for 2 seconds, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I don't know. It's I don't know, to be honest. Like I haven't seen a tokenomics or a token structure that actually. I mean, obviously there's tokens out there where you're using the token and there's utility for the token that that provides inherent value back to the actual value of said token. But those are very few and far between, in my opinion. And a governance token in the current state, like, there hasn't been a single one that hasn't depreciated dramatically in value that I can think of right now. And all that tells me is, like, okay, governance over, because at the end of the day, okay, so maybe I don't know if I'm out of line with this, but if I have a governance token and I say, okay, protocol says we're voting on XYZ decision, does that really impact what they end up doing or the direction of the company long term? Like, are those always followed or adhered to? And then also at a second point is, like, are you voting on decisions that actually matter in the long term? Or is it just like, okay, let's give them something to, okay, you know what, we're gonna improve, or we're gonna change the rate of return on Jupiter token that's being staked from 5% to 6%. We're going to do it anyway, but we're going to give them we're going to let them vote on whether or not we should do this. And then at the same time, we're just going to keep doing exactly what we're going to do anyway and keep building out this product the way that we're going to do to accrue value back to the underlying company, which is the equity. And then I don't know, maybe I'm being too presumptuous here, but I don't think there's a single governance token that's actually done anything. And that, I guess, that just means that, I don't know, it's just a failed experiment there, it feels like.
I'll give a few examples here with the help of my my AI co-producer here, not to take a shot at pain whatsoever. Governance tokens with strong historic or relative performance: Aave, as we've mentioned a few times, Uniswap, MakerDAO, Curve, DYDX, Compound, PancakeSwap, SushiSwap. So mostly DEXs. LidoDAO, DEXs or staking seem to be which I'm not saying they're not real organizations, but after they're up and running, not a lot of moving parts, right? You're probably talking about more upgrades and making decisions like a quarterly or even an annual basis, as opposed to running a organization that every day there's decisions that need to be made. I'm open to being wrong here, but those are a few that they are essentially DAOs. They do have governance amongst their token holders, and these have been very successful in the space. One thing I don't fully understand, and this is going to sound really ignorant coming from me at this point, especially being an ETH bull, how exactly does the Ethereum Foundation, it's my understanding, it's off-chain, it's forum talk, it's more of like a social consensus, and then the core developers decide based on social consensus what upgrades they're going to move forward with? Are you well versed on this, Outer, or anyone else on stage can speak to Ethereum?
No, I'm not. I'm trying to summon the person
yet they're voting in their decisions. It's not done via DAO governance voting, correct?
I have no idea. I'm working on summoning the person.
Lost audio.
That's not. I'm not super familiar with on that front. From what I understand, that sounds accurate. But what you were describing, and maybe like to kind of piggyback on that same thing is like Uniswap. Like I think it was probably 2024. There was a vote out there for them to turn the fee switch on. It would have been probably the first fee switch vote or fee switch protocol to go into effect. And essentially what they were going to do is what they're voting on now, ironically enough, is they're going to turn on they're going to pull a small percentage of swaps and I think liquidity pools. It might be dynamic. I didn't read through the whole thing, but essentially back in 2024, they said, okay, you know what? We're going to turn the fee switch on, or this is the vote. Should we go forward with it? I'm pretty sure it was relatively unanimous that they were going to turn the fee switch on, but then they decided to back out of it because of legal issues associated with the fee switch. So it's like, okay, what's the consensus? Oh, everyone wants to turn the fee switch on. That, you know what, we're going to make the executive decision. We can't do that. Obviously, I understand the legalities behind it. Like, you're not going to just screw yourself by getting into a huge lawsuit with the United States government or whatever. But then down the line, they're like, oh, you know what? Remember, everyone wanted to do this. Let's do it. And it's just like more of a consensus, or more like what's the general situation in the market? Oh, everyone's turning the fee switch on. Everyone's doing buybacks. Everyone's, moving towards this meta. Let's make the unanimous or the executive decision to do that. So it's more like you're exactly right, where it's like, okay, what does generally everyone think about, what the direction we should go, and then follow that.
Yeah, Outer, can we get a quick? You're good on YouTube. I think it was I flipped the switch on my end.
Test, check. Am I back? No.
It's probably just me, and I think YouTube, you're just fine.
Well, maybe people on Spaces
do the unplug
hear me?
and plug back in. That usually works.
Yeah, trying to figure out if you cannot hear me or if everyone else cannot hear me either. But it sounds like YouTube, I'm okay. Spaces, I'm not sure. But yeah. Let's see if hopefully this works.
We're good. All good.
Yeah, we're back? Okay. Sweet.
All else fails, power it off, power it back on, or unplug it, plug it back in.
Yep, that makes sense. Sorry, I think we were interrupting.
Oxy?
Yeah.
Got you guys.
Go for it. Yep. Do you want to finish that your last thought? I think we probably spoke over I cut you off there, interrupted you a little bit, but can we rewind the tape?
Me?
Yeah, go ahead.
No. Nothing really else. More so, I guess, just related to that Uniswap discussion. I don't know if you heard the whole thing or not, but that was pretty much it. It's like ultimately it's a consensus. It's like what does everyone want, or what does the general public feel like the direction we should go? Okay, that it's this way. Let's put a vote out for it. So it's more so like it's not even like I don't know. It doesn't feel like they're real business decisions because it's already kind of known this is the direction we're going to end up going. Here's a vote for it to kind of make it feel like, decisions are being made. I don't know, in my opinion.
No, I hear you. Almost more of a let's satisfy the people. Let's make them feel like they're involved, they're vested, they have a decision, in the process or a say in the decision-making process, but do they really? I did see, well, we have a wild divide on stage, so we might have to let divide go next. I do want to share this. It came in from Philip. Philip, you were up on stage, I saw for a second, and then we lost you for having issues connecting. Maybe take a quick lap, leave the space, come back, maybe force close the app, and then I would love to get your take on this if it's something you, seemingly based on your feed, something you're passionate about, because it's not just Aave right now. I did not see this one outer. Philip, who was just, he's coming back up, so we'll let Philip speak to it. But he says this may start to become a trend. Gnosis Ltd, the entity, also lost against the Gnosis DAO. Gnosis is one of the leading, if not the leading, multi-sig. One of the leading multi-sigs in very fascinating.
Yeah, not exactly the Gnosis Limited, but the DAO poll. Like, check out the forum for the details. There's a lot of lore into that, but it's interesting. Like an interesting thing now with Aave too. Like it seems like to be a trend.
So what do you think is the outcome of this? What is the trend? Like, because you say here, community most likely wins. The whole DAO slush fund thing, everyone is rolling with. Just a matter of time until easy money collapses. So, in this was, you quote tweeted this post here where Aave having a full blown civil war might be the biggest governance fight DeFi has ever seen. Here's a clean breakdown. Aave has two sides: Aave Labs, which is a centralized entity founded by Stanny; Aave DAO, the token holders who govern the protocol. Here's what's happening on December 4th. Aave Labs announced partnership with CowSwap to improve swap pricing and MEV protection on the Aave interface. On December 11th, a week later, a popular delegate, DeFi Rezel, drops on-chain analysis stating that swap fees from the new CowSwap contract are being routed to a private wallet controlled by Aave Labs, not the DAO. Translation: DAO revenue quietly got cut off. Then a day later, Mark Zeller, largest delegate, Aave Chain Initiative, calls it stealth privatization, claims 10 million per year that should go to the DAO is gone. 4 days later, things go nuclear. Proposal called Poison Pill by Tulip King. The demands seize all Aave IP, code, and brand, force Aave Labs to become a DAO-owned subsidiary, claw back all past revenue earned using the Aave brand. Then proposal 2 comes, brand seizure by former CTO of Aave Labs, move trademarks, domain, and socials to the DAO immediately. Logic: if the DAO pays for dev plus marketing, the DAO should own the brand, domains, and social. Aave Labs / Stanny's defense: the CowSwap thing was never a fee switch. Front-end revenues was a surplus. Labs donated voluntarily. Aave Labs is a private company. DAO owns the contract, not the website. Labs pays for hosting, security, and front-end engineers. Now the plot twist amid all this chaos: Aave Labs opens a snapshot vote on December 23rd. That's today. Proposal give Aave token, Aave DAO holders explicit control over the brand, assets, domains, social, naming rights, GitHub, NPM, everything. except the author of the proposal says he never approved it. He claims it got rushed to vote with his name on it while discussion was still active, calls it disgraceful, urges people to abstain. Mark Zeller then says the proposal was rushed during the holidays with fresh delegations gaining voting power. Zoom out. This isn't about CowSwap. This isn't about one wallet. This is the unresolved question of DeFi. Who actually owns a protocol, the code, the front end, or the brand? Aave is about to set precedent, and everyone is watching. Philip, appreciate you sharing that. Go ahead and anything you'd like to add to that conversation, or I guess DAOs in general.
Yeah, so the Gnosis story is not as well documented, and there's also a lot of stuff. I mean, I guess there's, generally speaking, for a lot of these companies, a lot of stuff going on behind the doors, right? And there's a lack of transparency in a lot of cases. And it's fascinating because the Gnosis story is literally what you just described previously, that people are coming together off chain and coming together and find some kind of agreement and then make a proposal and just push it through, right? That was the case with KPK in the past. With the 30 million they just approved, they just pushed it through against the community. The community didn't want to speak up because they felt like it's the founder and we should give him some trust, etc. Right? So, which is a valid thing too. But it's 10% of the market cap of Gnosis, which is quite a lot, right? At the time, now it's probably less. So, what the DAO did then was there are a couple of people that in not only in Germany but that came together and just did the same thing that the founder and the limited Tipity and KPK etc. do, and did this move themselves. Made a proposal, pushed KPK out in like within a week. That was crazy. That was fun to observe. But I don't know. Maybe it's fascinating to observe because we started to see this dynamic where people are envy of each other and starting to trying to hide things and to do things off chain. And now I'm thinking, while I'm observing it, asking people questions, being annoying at times, the common theme I'm asking myself is, did we lost track of the vision here? Like, this was supposed to be extreme transparency, fixing the financial system, etc. And now we're kind of moving backwards to all the problems the traditional finance system also has, instead of trying to address them with the vision in mind. But I guess it's once money comes into play and you get very attached to this number on the screen, all of these values fall apart, don't they?
It certainly feels that way. I agree. It feels like we've lost the plot on many of these. Like, what, not just the true north of a specific DAO and what their mission or vision is, but why did we go this route to begin with? What was I don't think the initial thesis behind DAOs was, let's just copy paste public companies and shareholder voting. And I see we finally convinced Divine.
Honestly, that would be an improvement. Like, honestly, like, no joke. If we would have shareholder like the same standards as we have in the stock market, that would already be an improvement. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, again, I repeat my earlier statement. It makes me sad because I feel like I got something I got really excited about, and now I not only do I not know the answer, like, it's like, depending on how this Aave thing plays out, like, I don't know, might this be the beginning of the end of DAO's outer?
I mean, like, is the end now, or did the end already happen? Like, I'm sorry to be such a pessimist about it, but I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not even sure it's like, I think for me, when I think about it, it's like, why, like, societal systems don't often work, but like look great on paper, like whatever utopia you can come up with is probably not going to be executed by us in a way that makes sense. And we've seen that time and time again with various like organizational government structures too. So like, I don't know why this be any different if you have human nature ingrained into something like this, even though you're supposed to maybe take some part of that out to some extent. Like, maybe this is just a reflection, I think, of us. And I hate to be pessimistic about it, but I don't know. This is why I'm interested in what that our like friend Paul from a decade ago wrote, that I want to read about this idea of integrating AI into it. Like, there's something there that's very interesting to me, because it may take away this like, human nature element, where even like the previous speaker mentioned, people being envious or whatever. Like there's, I've definitely seen time and time again on any DAO where the system and the model is that like you get more voting rights if you hold more of said token, that people are like, well, what's the point of me voting if person A is going to have that much power? Me having a few doesn't matter. And I think that's an easy self-reflection where those folks don't realize that if like, X amount of them show up with their 1 or 2 votes, that actually does make a difference, perhaps, depending on the allocation. But that part is like, why bother? You get into this thing, you're excited, but then when you see the way that it actually plays out, that I think that's one of the biggest demotivators.
Yeah. Me. Like, I stopped participating because I didn't think it, like, I actually didn't stop participating. I would participate more than I would vote. I felt I could get more done by speaking, amplifying my feelings, my thoughts, than going and voting with knowing it. What, like, there was maybe a handful of votes that would ever come within even a small, a close percentage of mattering. Most were well decided by the coordination of the whales or the funds, or if we're going to use specifics, Mochaverse and others. I do want to quote, I'm going to quote Von Frunten here, added this in the war room. Also, Divide, if you're still out there, apologies we didn't get to you faster. If you're able to join us, I know you're hard to pin down, but would love to get the 2 of you on the stage today if at all possible, but no obligations. And we will get Husker in here next. But Von Frunten says, equity holder, talking about publicly traded companies, shareholders versus DAOs. Equity holders don't vote on every aspect of the company. They don't vote on who to hire for most positions, what products to launch, what markets to enter, etc. They work because shareholders can vote board members in or out, and the board members can hire and fire the CEO. This string of accountability aligns the CEO to increase shareholder value, which benefits those who hold equity in the company. Also, given the size of publicly held companies, it's very hard for whales, including literal billionaires, to gain controlling interest in the company in the same way they can in DAOs and crypto, at least many of the models we've seen to date. Corporations are also regulated on how they must listen to shareholders. DAOs aren't. DAOs can unilaterally decide what goes to vote, when it goes to vote, which gives them a different power and accountability structure than most corporations. In his opinion, if we want to make DAOs work, they need to be more on corporations than the egalitarian actually sold on, and be regulated and to protect the members of the DAO. Well said. I'm not surprised, but appreciate you way better than I could have explained it myself. Husker, I said we know go to you next, but I saw we got Divide back with us. If you don't mind, you're on deck. Divide, GM, sir, always a pleasure. It's been way too long. What are we missing, and can DAOs be saved?
What are we missing? I don't know. How are you doing? Nice to be up here. So first of all, just taking it back a bit, I also have a fellow tiny shareholder in Tesla. And I believe I also have 100 shares, which I worked very hard on making sure that I could have. So I'm a little fish just like you. When Elon was saying, "Oh, you have to vote for this. This is really important," and he's like all over the Twitter timeline telling everybody how it's so important to vote. And I got the notification to vote, and it came by mail, and it said that there was some kind of proxy thing, and there was a phone number I could call, and I think I could mail it back. And it also came at least 4 weeks after all of this went down on the timeline. I think I had maybe 3 days to decide. And honestly, it was just my life moves at a certain speed. I got this thing, and I'm just looking at it, and I'm just there's this, for how many shares I own and for how much effort this is just absolutely ridiculous. And then I'm it's just so interesting that I'm interested in the blockchain world, and there's DAOs, and you can literally just like click and vote. And I've done it many times, and it's like smooth and it's clear and transparent and it's wonderful. And yet here we are in the financial world, and it's just like I got mailed something like a month later. Anyway, so that's my rant. That said, Tesla shares are an interesting hold if you believe in the autonomous future, but I'm sure we'll see how that plays out. I don't know, any comments or?
Yeah, I think
I have
that's,
questions.
yeah, I'll go right back to Outer, but I think talking about from first principles, maybe you nailed it. Maybe we've just overcomplicated things, and the best thing to come out of DAOs is on-chain voting, because you're right. It is. That's partially why I've never voted, because I actually have a stack somewhere. I have a stack of like class action lawsuit. Like they send you the postcard, like, hey, you're eligible for your share of this $72 million. Each person gets like $100, and I filled them out. I kid you not, I've not even taken them to the post office. Like, I don't have stamps. I don't like, and I know even some of these are prepaid postage. That is archaic. Like the fact that we got to mail something, or get something in the mail, you got to get that mail and then mail it back. Like, it's better on chain. Sorry, go ahead, Outer.
I was just gonna say, okay, first of all, I know at least some of the show for next week, next Tuesday. I would love to talk about like actual practical application of like an immutable database on chain, because I feel like I'm facing that in the healthcare system where they snail mail me an appointment. Like, I literally get my appointment notification because I get a letter in the mail telling me when my appointment is. And there's like, what am I supposed to do? Send a letter back? Like a passenger pigeon? Like, I just don't even know how to communicate. Like, it's wild. And yeah, so I don't know. I'm excited about that. I wanted to ask Divide, though, about the Founders DAO, because I feel like maybe you could answer this question for me and Cap. What was the point of it, Divide? Like what, from your own perspective, like to you as somebody who was a big Pixel Vault maxi. I know this. I'm privy to the collectors comics and all the things we have in our household. And look, I joined that DAO at some point, and I was excited about it. But I feel like it, aside from what ultimately happened in it losing its plot entirely, in those like earlier like beginnings of it, like what was the point?
Oh man, I don't know. Okay, let's go back. I loved being part of it. It was so much fun. It was all like broken down into different factions, like different planets. You got different channels on the Discord, and you can like talk and decide things potentially by getting together and discussing. There was some pretty heated discussions. I remember one about like people minted off contract to try to get the moon, I think, and they basically just burn their tokens, and then there's like a whole conversation about whether or not they should get their moon tokens or not. And it was just like absolute gold, like all of it. Like you could even write a short story that parallels what went down, that like you've got these like lost holders, and like lots of conversations. One side is like, well, they minted off contracts, so they deserve to get burned, and the other side is like, well, actually they were the ones that just followed like sheep, with they didn't really know better, so they're not like that, like they're minting off contract because other people told them to. So who do you think these people are? It was great. The whole thing. Going forward, I think like really weird stuff happened, but I don't know if I want to get into that right now. It's just basically I was kind of like vibing with that DAO and the whole thing, and then it was just like, oh, we're just going to randomly like sell off all of our assets and like buy some weird thing on Hyperliquid and like sell off this Lost Robbie, which is like literally the foundation of the first comic. Like everything just started to be like, whoa, what's happening? Like this is not like I thought we were going one way, and then it was just another way. So everything was strange, and then at the end, it just like turned into a massive explosion of terribleness. And I guess that all makes sense in hindsight. But at the beginning, it was really cool. And one thing was just like it's fun to participate. It's fun to drop into some conversations on Discord and stuff. But I mean, a lot of stuff didn't happen very quick also. So like if there was like market movements, like nobody could do anything, right? Like it was just like, oh, like we should like sell into this price movement. And it's like, oh, well, we'll have to make a DAO vote and we'll have to like do this and do that. And it just took forever, which is actually really ironic because at the end, everything felt like it just went through quickly. Right. But anyway, um, so yeah, that's I don't know. It was really it was a great thing to be part of at the time. In hindsight now, it's just like very disconnected. I think I'd like to like just touch back with what Outer said about DAOs being dead, and that is that like everything, all these societal constructs look really, a lot of them look really good on paper, and they turn out to be not so great in implementation, largely to do with human nature and power and what you do when you get centralized power and what you can get away with. Just think about historical leaders of various societal structures making decisions. I don't know, a few names come to mind. So I think in this, like with these technologies, like the reason why I'm on this space is because I find blockchain interesting. I find AI interesting. A lot of people don't, but the technologies are a powerful mix that you can add into pre-existing ideas. And now this is going to sound hopelessly naive, and I'm just going to say it anyway, but maybe these powerful technologies can be integrated into new societal ideas that could keep us on the rails, so to speak. And I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but like, imagine if a DAO was set up where there were rules that you just couldn't break them. Like you just, oh, I've got all this power, but I just can't quite seem to figure out how to wiggle out of this one in order to like take this power and sell all these punks off and disappear to some faraway country. Oh, God, I can't do that. Okay, fine. And then maybe AI can help with that, but I don't have a solution. The techno optimist in me is just like, wow, this could be it. This could be like if the DAOs are actually tuned properly, maybe our humanity can like have autonomy inside a properly tuned DAO so that we can like all have our voices heard, but nobody's going to end up getting all this power and taking off with all the assets. So I don't know. These are my thoughts. Like just
I
thinking
can
about it.
circle back on that, but Haskar is like holding up his or her hands for like half an hour. Maybe we should let them speak.
Yeah, let's do this if you don't mind, Philip. If you can hang out for a bit, we'll get Husker in here. Then we'll. I saw Zach threw his hand up, and then we'll get right back to Philip. But before we do that, Outer. Well, I guess Divide. I have one question for you, and then Outer, if you have any other comments or questions for Divide as well. I'm going to say it again. Like, is it simple? Like, we just need to rethink this. Go back to first principles. Why are we forming these DAOs? Like, I share the same feelings and sentiments. Like,
well, we're forming them because it's possible. So you got to experiment. You got to bring it out and see what happens. So there you go. Now you know.
Did we just
and now let's form some more and keep going.
Did we just overcomplicate it? Is it as simple as like we don't need to reinvent everything that exists today? Like to go back to Von Frunten's comments, like what if the DAO voters, all they voted on was the board, and then the board put in the CEO? Like, I'm not trying to oversimplify things, but maybe that's
man. Problem. It sounds like a great step. It's like the pendulum swings the other way, and then we'll learn from that, and then eventually we'll be in this middle ground where it works. Right?
And you could do that without. It doesn't make them a security to just vote in the basically the leadership team, the board, which then votes in the CEO, and now you're vested. Now and that CEO wants to keep their job. Presumably, the board wants to keep their job, so they're going to do everything they can to drive value accrual back to the underlying token. In theory, whereas I think we went from one extreme that we know in publicly traded companies today to the other where, every shareholder is equal. Every shareholder gets a vote. And that, as we've witnessed, just hasn't quite played out. Husker, appreciate your patience. Go ahead.
Wait.
Outer. Yeah, Outer.
Just to respond to Divide, and then I'm good. I wanted to, like, hearing you talk about the DAOs, I feel like you came up with like another acronym where you introduced the T, which I've been thinking about, which would like make it DATO, which is a decentralized autonomous tuned organization. Because you mentioned this word tuning of it, and I think like maybe that is like the sweet spot of what the DAO needs, is that like kind of like micro macro management within it. I don't know. I've just been thinking about like what it means to like come up with the DAO thesis, but then really tune and hone it in a way where then you like set it free. Okay, go function. Now that we've put these like constraints in where it can't be rugged, it can't do this. There's some like fine tuning done so that the rules are pretty clear. But I mean, to everyone's point, I think at this point, like pendulum swings, we'll see what happens. Maybe it's not that the DAOs have failed. Maybe they just haven't been like, maybe we just haven't experimented enough with them. Maybe it is just too soon. I don't know. I feel like I'm used to things moving fast, and maybe this idea of like human nature meets technology just needs more time to develop.
I agree. I also think that experimenting means new experiments. Like if you're starting a DAO today and you're doing so with the same DAO structure and governance and same voting that has come prior, that's not a great experiment. We already know how that experiment plays out. That hypothesis has been proven to work or to not work. And like do something different. I don't know the exact answer, but the more we talk through this, I kind of like this idea of mimic these public traded companies to some degree, right? Like you need a leader, vote in the leader, vote in the board that manages the leader. Like there's ways to do this without making every token holder feel the need or try to think that they're going to vote on every decision. That's just not efficient. Husker, appreciate your patience. I'm sure your arm is tired.
It's very tired, but no, honestly, always a pleasure to be up here. But I was just going to say, and really interested in some of the takes from some of the panelists here, does this make anyone bullish on Uni? I don't know if anyone's following the news on Uni, but they're literally going through this same thing right now. But I think instead of the FUD, they're actually trying to be proactive about it. And they're actually trying to do this thing called unification right now, trying to bring the Uni labs into, I guess, basically making the token represent both Uni like DAO and Uni Labs is the way that I understand it. And with it all, they're trying to do the fee switch. So I just wondered, does this make you guys bullish on Uni?
I haven't thought about it much, but so I guess like, does it make me bullish on the token? I don't know. I don't. I need to look more into like the tokenomics and not all their tokens in supply. Looks like 630 million out of a 1 billion. So TVL is FDV is 5.7. Market cap 3.59. I am bullish on the approach. I am bullish on attempting at least to meet this head on, as opposed to like ignoring it and just continuing the way things have been. I think it's very clear, especially what we're seeing with Aave and Gnosis, to Philip's quote tweet, we're probably going to see more of these on both parties. There's probably labs or the centralized entities that are, a sister or brother to the DAO that are thinking, oh crap, we need to make our move now so we can secure these funds that we think are ours. And there's probably on the other side of that token holders that are active participants in these DAOs thinking, oh crap, we better secure our DAO now and our IP and everything we're building before the centralized entity tries to pull an Aave and take it from us. Aave is no joke, by the way. I know DAOs aren't the most exciting topic to talk about. I know there's probably very little chance to make money on a DAO governance token today. We're talking like Aave is a incredible product. They have $53 billion in TVL. Like they've been successful. This could, I don't think it will, but there's a world where fast forward a few years and they don't exist anymore because of this major issue. Like it's hard to see it while it's happening, but there's an outcome where this DAO civil war ends up imploding, one of the most successful products to come out of crypto. Like that could happen. And I think it's very much newsworthy, very much noteworthy, and something that if you're participating in a DAO, if you work for a centralized entity that has secured funding from a DAO or is connected to a DAO, like this is not going. I really seriously doubt that Aave, Gnosis, and Uni are the last time this conflict or civil war is probably not the right word. It's just what I keep coming back to. This is not going to be the last time this happens. And because of this, it's probably going to accelerate. Like this Aave vote is today. The fact that our timeline isn't talking about this because, oh, it's over and tokens are down and the timeline sucks and it's just AI slop and InfoFi. I know it's not as exciting as like, well, this might be the next 100x, or I can go buy a raffle token and win, something worth several $1,000s. Cool, teach their own. You still can do that. I think it's these sorts of topics. We talk about pushing the space forward and making a real impact, creating value in this space. This isn't hyperbole. Like they're like on-chain voting, for as messed up as this DAOs are and the challenges we're talking about today, it's better than how most publicly traded companies have shareholder votes. It just is. It works. It's less friction. There's something that could be taken out of this. And I think we could look back in this December 2025, to Albert's point, maybe the end already began a while ago. I don't think it's not over. Like I really don't think Aave is going to zero. I don't think everyone's going to pull their funds out of Aave, but how the DAO and Aave Labs navigates this and gets through this, it's hard to think it won't have a tremendous impact on the protocol, on probably the token value, and to the question of, does it make me bullish Uniswap? It makes me bullish them meeting it head on and knowing that, not waiting until there's a coup or some sort of attempt at a hostile takeover, but rather, hey, we know there's alignment here that could be better defined. Let's work on that. Zach, go ahead and get back in here, and then I'm excited to hear what Funky has to say on this.
Yeah, no, great conversation. Just kind of, recapping, I think having a direction, like you mentioned, Cap, and everybody else, but it's, we got to have a reason to have the DAO, because when you have people voting or saying, hey, let's, try this brand new idea, it can be hard. Shareholders, stakeholders, right? Is it the voting protocol, or is it a security and you own a piece of the company like a stock or something? So that's a big question to ask. But I really liked earlier, I don't know if it was Divide that jumped in, but the idea of these like civil guardrails that won't allow people to rug, right? Because we think in the past, like the Bernie Madoffs of the world, or, these corporate greed guys that have, sold all the underlying assets and, moved to wherever and ran off with all the money. One of the things like we instill is, for instance, with real estate, is the titling company, if there's a property that's in an LLC, the titling company needs the operating agreement, which outlines everything, and they won't move forward without it. So that operating agreement can say, hey, unless the DAO voted, you can't sell this property. So it looks like the future of going, how do we use current regulation to help keep the customer happy by keeping the the kind of the asset manager honest. So with RWAs, it's a little easier to define, but I really am curious moving forward when you talk about DAOs around businesses and concepts and ideas, what that looks like. And voting in CEOs versus the main decisions of the company, that'll be kind of the future to hold. But with RWAs, if we can build around regulation that already exists, then it'll help people go, you know what? I know the asset exists. The guy can't take off with the money without the DAO voting. All the funds get sent to this wallet address and dispersed because that's what the operating agreement says. But it'll take somebody to build that out and really define those guardrails kind of moving forward, at least in my opinion. But great convo. I got to run. I'll be listening in the background. Thanks, Captain, as usual.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you adding to the conversation today. Philip, didn't forget about you. I do want to get Funky in here, who just joined us, and then we'll go right back to Philip. Funky, I'm not sure if you caught how much of the conversation you caught, but always speaking of big brains and well-versed on this sort of stuff, GM, and what brought you up?
GM, yes. I admittedly didn't catch all the conversation. I'm sure there was some great nuanced takes, but just as a DAO participant and as a lover of sociological experiments, I've been, of course, the first thing I want to talk about is Polkadot, right? Because, I've been involved with the ecosystem for 5 years, since 2020. They were the first ecosystem to have a full-blown on-chain governance. Everything is enacted via runtime code. There's like really no human beings involved. And a couple things that were interesting was that it's never a democracy. People think that DAOs are a democracy, very often, especially when you're talking about token-based voting systems, it's very much a plutocracy. If you have a ton of tokens, you're going to have an outsized influence on the direction and impact on the ecosystem. We saw this with a whale who kind of cheated the ICO system when it was happening by having a bunch of his family members all apply for the ICO way back in the day in like 2017 or whatever. And he had a large Italian family. And so he had an undue influence on the ecosystem. And for the better part of a year, effectively just drove all the decisions, all the spending out of the treasury because he could just vote with such heavy conviction in bags. And so that's one challenge of DAOs. I think the other thing that we saw to try and combat this was the Web3 Foundation, which was the educational research side arm of Parity Technologies. They instituted a program called Decentralized Voices, which allowed people to delegate to other holders so that they could try and combat this influence. And the Web3 Foundation even delegated tokens to those voters themselves. Our company served as one of these DVs for 2 of these cohorts. And so it helped combat that situation, but it wasn't a perfect system. And now what's interesting is here we are 5 years later. This system has been live for about 3 years. They just swept it all up and centralized everything, where they're canceling the DV program. They realized that decentralization can be very messy. It doesn't necessarily serve the best interests of an ecosystem. You get these combative type situations like we're seeing right now with the labs versus the actual DAO, which I'm with you, Cap. I think that ultimately Aave will be able to correct course and find a way forward. Or another good example, because we were just talking about RWAs, I'm very involved with Centrifuge, which used to be a Polkadot parachain. Started off on Ethereum, sort of the OG RWA that launched on ETH mainnet, first one to ever tokenize stuff back in 2020. And literally the DAO voted to suspend the DAO because they wanted, the labs team said, we need the ability to move fast and make decisions with our TradFi partners, because now they have billions of dollars in TVL, and governance processes like these slow things down. So I think ultimately DAOs are a very interesting sociological experiment. I don't know how well it works with tokens. It'd probably be easier with like Bored Ape Yacht Club, for instance, or a collection that's much smaller where you wouldn't have such a centralizing influence, or whales. You might have some whales, but I mean, realistically, it's not like you're going to have an NFT holder have 10% or more of the collection. Maybe the team does, is they have a wallet that they keep stuff, but they're probably not going to be voting with that. So I just find this whole topic very fascinating. And I'm hopeful, because I'm also an Aave holder, that this will work out in due time. But yeah, DAOs are just a fascinating topic overall.
Yeah, 2 things. One, real quick, as it relates to, ApeCoin DAO did that. They voted to sunset the DAO and give the remaining funds back to ApeCo, which is effectively a centralized organization ran by not Yuga employees, but former Yuga employees. And then, being an Aave holder, do you have any thoughts on how this plays out? Like, will you be voting today, I guess, is one question. And then is it a week-long vote? Do you know those specifics? Like when will we know, like what's the result of what this proposal that's up today?
I honestly haven't gotten in the weeds myself, and I can't vote because technically right now my Aave is all in hydration, the Polkadot DEX, because they're paying such a good yield. So I was just earning on it by putting it in a liquidity pool. So I can't vote. I mean, I could move the tokens out, put them back onto mainnet and whatever, and vote. But I've been looking forward to the holidays just because I've seen this kind of thing erupt over the last several days, but I haven't had a chance to really dig into the details. But I am as a holder, I am kind of curious because I believe in Aave. I think that, to your point, with the app coming and all those other things, it is the dominant DeFi protocol. I mean, for those who are in the space listening that have been around a long time, probably remember when it was ETH Lend way back in the day when it first started. And then they changed to the new token, I think, in 2020. So it's just, it's interesting. I really hope that it all works out for everybody involved. I don't have a substantial or meaningful amount of Aave, to be fair. So, it's not like my vote would have any kind of sway, to my previous point about plutocracy.
But also another real challenge with governance tokens is a lot of those holders like their assets to be productive and will put them in other DeFi protocols that often will eliminate or make it, add friction back to the process should they choose to participate and vote. Philip,
or people are just lazy and delegate it too, and then you get centralization through that. There were interesting topics. So the underlying issue here, you identified it correctly, and I see it similar, that at the end of the day, it's fascinating to see and to try to understand where these labs are coming from. And I kind of get it. I kind of understand it, right? You worked so hard on it. There was a time when no one cared about this stuff. You had to write your paper, you had to write your software, you had to find the people, you had to find the funding for it, etc. So I get it, but at some point people indulge too much in this whole greed, ego, and envy environment, and lose track of reality. And then it becomes this whole, what you also said before, this whole fight between labs, and then they try to hide stuff from the other labs without thinking about the consequences. But when we come back to the topic of the token distribution, basically, so that's what I'm thinking about. Like, it really comes down a lot to token distribution at the end of the day. And I'm currently thinking a lot about how to combine that with merit, because right now we are a lot focused on attention. And, well, if I'm a e-girl, and hot e-girl for Astra, I think it's called Astra, right? Like, that's just what gets attention, but maybe that's not the metrics we should aim for. And combining everything this way, like having a proper distribution by merit, and having a more transparent service. Or someone said it before with the whole, what was it, properties and selling properties, and you have this basically the service provider, and without the DAO they cannot move the property or the funds or whatever. I think that's an interesting way to think about it and to structure it, that these labs at the end of the day, they founded it and they're cool and they're still contributing a lot and there are important people in it and you should listen to them and whatever. But at the end of the day, at some point, the DAO and this technology, this protocol, became detached from them. I mean, that's the whole point, right? We want to democratize it, and at some point, you don't own it anymore, and it's this free floating thing everyone works on, and maybe people vote you as CEO or board member or whatever, but at some point, it's not your company anymore, more or less. But people still feel this way, and I think a lot of these issues come from this place, that people have this feeling, it's still my baby, but it's not. It's over. You lost it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think some of it, I'm sure some are financially motivated and they don't want to lose they presume what they think is their wealth. But I think it's probably more pride and ego often, where hey, I spent the last decade building this thing. It's my baby. And now you're telling me I got to bend the knee to thousands of token holders who haven't put other than holding the token.
Yeah, it's fucking annoying. It's horrible.
Right? I mean, I get it from that point. But, I guess my pushback would be, well, you probably shouldn't have formed it as a DAO then. But I in hindsight's, 2020. I don't, it's a really tough spot for those people to be in. I think from the limited knowledge I have and talking through today, I think Uniswap probably taking the best approach in trying to get ahead of it and meet their vested token holders in the middle somewhere before there's a full-blown civil war.
That will be interesting. That will be really interesting to observe if there is even a chance for protocols from a very fucked up distribution to move in a direction that is more healthy. Because you always, like Bitcoin, for example, I think Bitcoin, like, hot take here, but people don't like. I think it's very obvious, but a lot of people don't agree with me. Bitcoin failed as a vision and protocol. When I look at the number of active addresses right now and transactions, and I did the post the other day and draw a correlation between the valuation of Bitcoin. There was a huge correlation in the past, and now it kind of broke apart because of perps, etc. And now we're going down, and the correlation aligns more again. So it failed. Like, people are not using it. Lightning Network is also centralized. So I am not sure if you can save these protocols at the end of the day once you have these wells, because it's not their interest. Or, I mean,
It's okay. Bitcoin
technically
is
it is in their
to
interest,
hold.
right? That the protocol sustains and goes into the future, be part of this vision. But in the short term, they don't care. In the short term, they see this huge number. They are able to, nowadays, didn't even JP Morgan offer now loans with Bitcoin as collateral? So, like, why do I care? Like, at that point, when this whole thing falls apart, I'm already dead, right? A lot of these people are like 40, 50, whatever. And at the point this whole shit show falls apart, they're already cashed out.
Just easy on us 40-year-olds, okay? That's all I ask. No, in all seriousness.
Are you 40?
Yeah, a little older than 40, but I'm not 50.
Sorry.
I'm not 50. So I do appreciate you joining us today. It's been great to connect, and I'm glad you pointed out the Gnosis issue. I had missed that one, was not aware. And yeah, it is going to be, maybe not for all, but I find this really interesting to see how this plays out. And I firmly believe some are going to survive. The Aaves of the world, they're going to make it through this. I think the precedent that is set here is probably very real. Now, is it legal precedent? No. But I think because of their clout, their time in the space, the success they've had, I do think, however it plays out, we'll see others probably go a similar route, or at least attempt to. I mean, both sides probably. Just really interesting. So go ahead and get back in here, Philip, and then Outer. I had no idea we would be talking about for 2 hours.
Just want to ask the question into the room, basically. When you're in this situation, you have this fucked up distribution, and there are these whales, and they most likely are not going to vote against their own short-term interests. How do you motivate them to do it regardless in order to build a more sustainable long-term community?
Yeah, and I think
the do it regardless part, I think, is
or put a positive twist on it. I think that is also part of the benefit of DAOs over and their token holders over shareholders. Is, I'm sure there's exception. Since we've been talking Tesla, that's probably one. Is there's a lot of Tesla raving fans that feel really vested in that company. I think most shareholders, though, it's just numbers on a screen, and they're not they probably don't consider them, like, they hold, the Mag 7, they probably don't consider themselves of the Microsoft community or the Facebook community. Like, it's just an investment. Whereas here, for a lot of people, there is emotions involved. There's a much deeper, I feel, sense of pride and ownership, even though they don't hold equity in the company. It feels like there's just more alignment, even when there's not. And I think that's powerful. Outer, I know we've went really long on DAOs this morning. Not expecting that. Looks like I might have even lost your audio. Is that right?
I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, let me check. I'm probably gonna have to unplug, plug back in. I don't know what is going on.
Yeah, I don't think
you're routing her.
He's probably plugging me back in and out. But can you guys hear me on the space? Is it just Cap that can't hear me? I don't actually know.
Or the distribution of people who have
check
voting or who are not voting.
Yeah, but then there's somebody speaking now, or not?
Yes. Yeah, you're go ahead and finish your thought, Philip. Outer, your audio is back.
You can hear me now? Okay, great.
Apparently your Spaces speaker's audio is not coming through. No idea what's going on. Apparently StreamYard or X or the Rodecaster did not like a 2-hour DAO conversation either. But Philip, go ahead and finish your thought, and then Outer can take us home.
I tend to disagree with your point, Cap, on that people are more involved in it. I don't see that. I see most people in crypto are also just normies, have on Coinbase, not even getting their tokens off chain, off exchange. So, and then you get all these issues with delegation and centralization. So I tend to disagree. But yeah.
Outer, we got your back, and apologies for the technical challenges. Appreciate you powering through it with us. Appreciate you bringing Divide into the conversation today. Really enjoyed that. I have truly enjoyed the conversation on DAOs, but we had a few other nuggets. I know you probably have a heart out here. Maybe we someday we talk about Art Blocks games, because I saw
next time.
I saw Dort had he played around, did some fun stuff in there. Maybe do we want to wrap with, I mean, first of all, anything else you want to buy off the conversation? But then the question you asked, I thought was a good question. Maybe we could send people off with that if you want, or we can put that to next week.
No, I like the question, but I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Okay. So first of all, I did want to mention that, like, I think it's interesting to meet someone who thinks that Bitcoin is like a failed DAO. I think that that's funny. Also, Divide, if you're still listening, you should stop being an introvert and come out more, with or without me. And then I think for next Tuesday, if y'all haven't gathered yet, I'll be back with Cap every Tuesday. Then we can talk about the Art Blocks game things. But I haven't prepared, and I'll just come back with that next week. And what I want to say about them is that there's these 2 drops that happened recently that were just like free to claim. But they're artworks, but they're highly participatory. One is a game where you like literally go across and dig for stones that you put on a shelf, and it's actually really kind of like addictive and fun. And the other one is like by actual Snowfro, who made Art Blocks and the Squiggle, and it's like send and receive, so it's almost like just kind of memeing on chain. And so I wanted to just like modify the 2 that I have like live, just so people at least on Spaces could see how fun it is, and like it's cute. But
is there a cutoff on that, on the send receive? Is there, like, are we still good if next Tuesday? Do you know?
Yeah. No cutoffs at all. Anytime. Oh. Yeah, this is great. Like, you can just, yeah. So I can do that next week. But I did have a question that I popped into the notes that Cap and I have, and I've been thinking about this, and maybe this is also something like, I don't know if we could address it, like maybe in the war room we can talk about it, or maybe later we can come back with our answers, because I don't have the answer. I just have the question. But you know how oftentimes in the interview, or just in general, there was this like buzz around the question of, please tell us, what advice you would give to your younger self. Like, that is like such a quintessential question that became a part of like all the things. And I wrote this in the notes, and I thought, okay, but what advice would you as like an 8-year-old give yourself now? Like, if you can go back and remember yourself, like, sub 10 years old, and you were like talking as like that kid to yourself, like what would you say? Like, what would the check-in be from the other way around? Because and the reason, the inspiration behind this is, well, because I'm a weirdo and I love social experiments too, and these kind of thought patterns and processes. But mainly it came from the fact that like, I cannot change the outcome of that question, like the original one. Me giving advice to my younger self is completely irrelevant, because like, who cares? I can't go back and be my younger self and change the outcome of today. However, I am still in control of what's happening to my life now. And this is almost like a calling to touch base with your younger self and just be like, hey, am I honoring whatever like free-spirited human that was in there doing whatever they were doing? Or am I like doing them dirty right now? Like, is this like a really like off the mark, So anyway, I don't know if I even have an answer. I haven't talked to 8-year-old Lumen in a minute. Like, I have no idea, but I feel like maybe we can even start with that opener or something next Tuesday, and reflect on it.
I'm going to think of my proper answer for next Tuesday. Like, first of all, when she put it in the notes, I tweeted out the wrong way because I misread what it was. My brain saw it and read it as the same question that you've heard 100 times on the timeline. I like this much better. And thinking through it, and maybe this was driven by my brother randomly texted me this morning I have no idea if he had a dream or what. Okay, so it was actually last night. I saw it this morning. No, I did see it last night. Anyways, long story short. Anyways, he says, do you have the video of you in Mr. Fairfield Union when you won. I said, on VHS somewhere in storage. Wish I had got it digitized years ago. VHS might be cooked. He says, no. They were just talking about it. His brother-in-law's favorite movie was Grease. So the TLDR there is I, as a sophomore, competed in our school's variety show talent competition, using talent very loosely. And we had just done in drama class that year. Me and one of my classmates did a skit from Grease, to the song "You're the One That I Want." Ooh, ooh, ooh. And long story short, if I can find the video, I will share it if I can get it digitized. If the VHS isn't cooked. But I played the role of Olivia Newton-John in a blonde wig, a tight black short mini dress, and slayed it. Finished runner-up as a sophomore. Usually the only people that win these awards were seniors in our high school. Junior year, we ran it back and did a twist on it, did a derivative of the same skit, and ended up winning it. I think maybe to this day, maybe the only underclassman to ever win Mr. Fairfield Union. And I did so in a tight black mini dress, making a fool of myself, having fun. So tying that to the best answer I could come up with, what my 8-year-old self would tell me today would be something cheesy like dance like nobody's watching, because I did have like no inhibitions as a 8-year-old and 18-year-old. Not because I was drinking at 8 or 18. It was just, I just didn't like, I was, and I still am extroverted, but when it comes to settings like that, like just yesterday on the timeline, I'm talking to the need for, I need salsa dancing lessons because I still dance like a gringo. I, enjoy my arepas every morning, but I'm dancing like, a gringo that has no rhythm. And why does it matter? Like, I shouldn't care. I should just go have fun. And when I actually do want to learn proper ballroom dancing / salsa dancing and more. But the only reason I, in my mid 40s, don't know that is because of, even though I can say as much as I want, I don't care what other people think about me. I obviously do. My actions say otherwise. And so I think that would be, I don't know if that resonates, but I think that would be the advice I would give myself, is not just in certain aspects of life, don't care about what other people think about you, but in probably all aspects of life, including dancing or fill in the blank, like no one else cares. And if they do, like you having fun and looking like a fool who doesn't have rhythm, like most people I think are gonna look at that positively, not in a negative light. Is this checking out at all with you?
So,
or no?
Yeah, I think there's two things I want to say to that. One is, I agree with you, but I also think it's different, like for instance, from my son's generation, because that thing could end up a meme that destroys his life and cancels him just with one person taking the video out of context at the wrong time, and that living on the internet for like ever and replicated. That's something that like growing up I did not have, and you didn't either, because you have to like go find the VHS of this thing versus you pulling up someone's Insta account or whatever, right? Like, or TikTok. Yeah. And I think like, and I see him navigate that like put yourself out there has a whole new meaning with that like longevity and that kind of culture of like, wait, but there might be repercussions to me putting myself out there. And so like I agree with you, because we both embody, I think, that like safe childhood where, and I'm quite extroverted, like I don't know, whatever test I do on personality, I'm always like 85% plus extroversion, and that's fine. And I also want to maybe define the difference between the two in case people are interested. Like I know most people know the difference between an introvert and extrovert. And I know there's people that are like in between those, but this is how you actually define what a true introvert versus a true extrovert is. So a true introvert will actually re-energize by being alone. And a true extrovert gets re-energized by having communication and talking and being in a group setting. Like right now, having this, I'm quite energized by this. So when I do take time for solitude as a pure extrovert, that actually is depleting my energy until I then go and talk to someone again and I'm re-energized because I have communication, because I'm an extrovert. For an introvert, it's the opposite. They actually spend energy talking to people and then they re-energize going back into solitude. And yes, there's like, divides actually almost like 50-50. Like, there's lots of people that are on this like spectrum of this stuff. But if you go into like the outlier ends of it, those are kind of the definitions. And so, and I was a very extroverted kid. And I think I'm still honoring her by being like quite extroverted. I also was like a public speaker and like I still maintain that. But there were definitely some things I had to like check in with and make sure. Like I used to love singing and then I stopped because someone told me I sucked, and then I just like started singing again because I didn't care. And like there's things you kind of unpack, and I think if I had to answer like now and what I'm thinking about today, I think it's more like, what did I do when nobody asked me to do anything? Like what were those things? Like what did I work out? Like what did I work on my own? Where it wasn't like, you have to do this assignment or you have to do this thing. Like, what did I gravitate toward? Like, was I dancing in my room? Was I like drawing? Was I like reading? Like, what were the things that I just naturally did? And one thing that came to mind as you were talking is I used to collect stuff, and I still do, which to me, I feel like I think I've honored the 8-year-old Outer Lumen, because I collected like stamps and I collected stones and I collected things all the time. And I'm like, how funny that I ended up in like Web3, and now I digitally collect and, you know, still collect physical things too. But yeah, I feel like that part is a nice like full circle in that like I didn't go into something that was so like remote and far away from that kid who loved, you know, the ability to collect sets and collect like I spent hours collecting beach glass, and I would categorize them into colors. So of course I'd be interested in like trait things, or like it just manifested itself in a different way. But yeah, I don't know, I'd love to hear, and maybe we can open with it next week, like what, like if people are like touching base with their kid selves and what, you know, what that like fast forward means to now.
I love it. That's your homework, chat, is let us know. You can drop in the chat today if you want, but also remember your answer and bring it back next Tuesday. What would your 8-year-old version of yourself tell you today? What advice would the childlike you give your adult self today? And I think this might be one I stick with and ask. I always like my routine last couple weeks of the year, every year for as long as I can remember, is kind of just I'm not into New Year's resolutions. I'm not like if you want to do something, get started now. Don't wait until January 1st. And specifically, please don't go to the gym. At least no crunch gyms in the Tampa area. It just makes this much harder on all of us that actually go to the gym without having to wait for New Year's resolution. Anyways, I digress. This might be a new question I just incorporate into my reflection and look forward process every year, because we change, right? And I'm going to put some more thought into this week, and I think it is a real good, to your point too. Like, and sometimes maybe it's, hey, you're doing the thing, great job. Like your 8-year-old version might be proud of you today. Like you talk about, I said I wish I danced like nobody's watching. My 8-year-old version, or my 8th grade version, 7th and 8th grade version of me, was doing science fairs on Tecmo's Super Bowl and predicting the outcomes of simulated seasons. And fast forward today, I'm deep in prediction markets and DFS, and like I grew up and did the thing that I was doing for fun as a 7th and 8th grader. And like you don't often, like, I guess it is easy to connect the dots looking back, but sometimes we don't really think about, and maybe you're not doing something you enjoy, maybe you're not following a passion. And for those individuals, I think this question probably even more impactful, more important. But as someone who's been very fortunate in my life, where outside of those Zoom meetings with 17 people, I haven't really felt like I've worked for, I don't know, like 20, 30, like most of my entire adult life, I've done things I've loved to do. And it didn't really feel like, even when I was like selling phones as an entry-level sales associate, unless it was like a Saturday shift and I hadn't slept after, Saturday night out on campus and hungover out of my mind, like that felt like work. But other than like most things I've done, it's been things I was passionate about, things I enjoyed, and I'm very grateful for that. I realize not everyone has had, is able to be, that fortunate, but it's not too late. Whether you're, the 20-year-old Zoomer listening in, or you're 40, approaching 50. Some of you, I'm not going to name names, anyone on stage. Some of you over 50. Like, it's not too late to pursue those passions. So I think a great thought, great question to ask yourself. Let us know what you would advise you give yourself, your 8-year-old would give your current self in the chat. Bring those answers back with you next Tuesday. 2 other flyover things, and then Outer, I'll let you out of here. Appreciate you once again hanging out longer than expected. This is more of a next week news item. It's pinned up top, but for all those that were on Lighter, TGE is coming next week. There's a good article on the TGE and how you might think about playing that. I know Phonics and several others we're very active in that ecosystem and looking forward to that one. And then last but not least, I thought we'd actually spend a little more time on this today. It's not like, again, it's not one of these things that's going to drive 100x. I just happen to be a big Banksy fan. I've seen a few of them in person, 2 in Park City, Utah. I think I've seen another. Yeah, would have been Paris, I believe. Now I got to think what Pranksy I saw in Paris. But anyways, I'm a big Pranksy fan. He just dropped a new one in time for Christmas. This is the J-Bond post. I pinned it up top if you want to see it. And I think very fitting to wrap with this. Think of this as your 8-year-old version of yourself pointing to your adult version of yourself today and giving you some advice. I don't know if you saw the Pranksy outer, but any other closing thoughts, any whether DAO conversation or advice from 8-year-olds or anything in general to take us home today?
I don't know. I think the Banksy artwork like perfectly encapsulates that. I was reading this morning so he did 2 of them, and right there's they're the same. There's one near a station in London, and then there's one like where this garage is, but they're the same. And so once he claimed ownership of one, they assumed that he did both. But all the commentary so far is that how it's like not political. It's like not, and so I'm excited to like look at where it is and just try to like add my own meaning to whatever this is. But the idea of these 2 kids just like lying there and like to me, this is like anything's possible, right? I mean, we've all looked up at the stars at some point, but the way a kid looks up at the stars is not the way that we look up at the stars now. And if it is, then good for you. But this is very much, I think, that like the definition of exploring your kid self versus your current self, and how like, I don't know. I like chasing that. I like the I don't know if people read the book The Little Prince. If you haven't, I think that's probably my highest recommendation. You can finish it in half an hour. It was written by a pilot from the war, and he's on the French side. And it's about it's a very definition of like what happens when you grow up in a way that you become a grown up, and you lose like all the fun out of living. So it's but it's like a kid's book, but yet like it's so deep that if you're reading it as an adult, it's like not a kid's book at all. I kind of like those double meaning works. So yeah, The Little Prince, Le Petit Prince, if you speak French and get the privilege of reading it in its original language. But it's or if you're like into cartoons, there is the whole Little Prince movie that they made. It's all right, but just read the book. That's what I'll end with. My recommendation is like not, yes, you can go in and read Radical Friends and learn all about DAOs. But I think if I had one thing to say, if you haven't heard of The Little Prince or read it, go read that.
I love it. What a show. Again, not a direction I thought we would do like 10 minutes on Aave Civil War and move on. It's meaningful. It's impactful for those asking where this Pranksy's at. It's at Bayswater. I'm not familiar with that neighborhood, but it's in Bayswater. And you said 2, is that new? Like he normally just does 1, right? Like it's not a...
No, he did both. I don't know the time frame between the 2, but they are similar, if not identical. At least
that's new for him, right? Like he typically doesn't.
Yeah, he typically just does 1, but this time there's 2 of them. And I think from my understanding of my brief like foray into reading it this morning, he did 1 by some kind of like tube station somewhere, and he didn't claim that one, but then he did this one near a garage, and then on his official Insta he posted that he did this one. So I think people are extrapolating that since they're the same, but maybe they're not. Imagine some other artist did the other one. He legitimized it somehow by copying it. I don't know. Like this is where, the lore of Banksy is wild. It's really cool.
Maybe my favorite living artist. Yeah. Definitely on a short list of artists with works I will likely never own, and not will many people due to the nature of them, unless you're talking to print. But
his New York like experiment was so incredible. The one where he just painted stuff and just sold it, I think for $40. I don't remember the how much, but he was on the street like as a vendor, I think like selling stuff, and then people bought it and later found out that they bought an actual Banksy like piece.
It's wild.
Yeah, that was
running pure.
So wild.
here are, I'll show you. I don't have my camera, but real quick, I'll just show you the ones I've seen in. These are ones in Park City. This one here.
Oh, sweet.
And then this one here are the two in. And when I was there, they protected it with like this frame, and there's a glass cover. When I was there, someone had broken the glass, but it actually made it even more. Like you can see here, there's a reflection. Both of them have the same frame and glass, but someone had broken the glass on this one. It even made it more like, I don't know, artistic. It made it more part of like the street art that it is. It's, almost like shared.
Well, his auction, like I mean, what a way to like provide commentary on something that is like such a pinnacle of the art world.
You probably know the details better than me, but basically sold a piece at auction for a couple $1 million, I think. And as soon as it sold the artwork opened up and went down into a shredder, and it shredded the art.
And it became even more valuable after that.
It's amazing. We'll talk art blocks next week. We'll maybe revisit what your 8-year-old version of you is giving your current day self, and it can't be something like buy Bitcoin. Like your 8-year-old version wasn't aware of that yet. So something that can make a difference in your 2026. Let's say that.
Well, and it's giving advice to you now. So if it's telling you to now buy Bitcoin, sure, go for it. But that's not the same as like, that's the beauty of all of the question. And like, look, who knows what will happen between now and 7 days from now? Like, this isn't, interstellar type world here. For all we know, there could be like, a ton of things that we'll have to talk about. So I'm excited for whatever next Tuesday brings. But yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really like, this has been really nice to get into a weekly cadence and come hang out. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I enjoy all of our conversations. We could probably have this. We probably could have had the same conversation with just the two of us on the phone this morning. I don't know. Every time I've had a conversation with Outer, it's usually like about one thing and like specific thing, and it evolves into a much more enjoyable conversation that ends up covering a lot of topics. But truly appreciate your time. Wishing you and Divide the happiest of holidays. I know it's been a eventful year for yourself and your family, and I hope you're able to enjoy some family time, reflect on the year, and look forward to a new 26. But if I don't talk to you in the next couple of days, have a happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, and can't wait for next Tuesday. What it brings. As I said, I'm sure to be similar today, where we may think we're going to go into it talking about 8-year-old self-advice and art blocks games, and probably add a topic or two to the agenda between now and then.
Who knows? I'm excited. I can't wait to make 0 New Year's resolutions with you.
Perfect. That's maybe the title of the space is 0 New Year's resolutions. If you want to make a change in your life, do it now. Don't wait. Don't go with the flow. Zig when others are zagging. Everyone else is going to be making a New Year's resolution. Most of them will forget about it by not even February 1st. Usually it's like the next Thursday. They've already broken the resolution. So don't do what most people do and fail. Start today. The best change I ever made in terms of like an actual, what a lot of people would consider resolutions, is I started focusing on my health and fitness in December of 2017. And by December of 2018, I looked like an entirely different person. I felt entirely different. I was in much better shape. I was much healthier. I was sleeping much better emotional, like every state of my life. Now, did that happen? And I said, I'm going to do this January 1st. Maybe, but I didn't wait. I made a conscious decision to make some changes, and I just did it. And I did it mid-December, not waiting until some arbitrary date on the calendar. But
fail today, not tomorrow.
There you go.
I like that.
There you go. Philip, again, great, appreciate you joining us today. Great to connect, and shot you a follow. We'll hopefully see you more on the timeline. And we do run this back every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Usually only get about 10 o'clock, but the DAO's got the people going today. We don't know why, but it's provocative, and really appreciate all of our first time speakers, all of our regular speakers. Really, truly did enjoy the conversation, and I feel like there's another nugget or two we didn't even hit on, but we'll save that for tomorrow or next Tuesday. And again, thanks so much, Outer. Appreciate your time today, and happy holidays to you and yours. And as Steve would say, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks for tuning into Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin. We hope you enjoyed the show, and remember, nothing we discussed today is financial advice. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Welcome to the future.